That's right. It's the inevitably nonsensical, yet hopefully enjoyable, After Movie Diner. If you enjoy the show and have pursued the recommended treatment from your medical providers, why not support the show on Patreon? Over at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Rate and review the show wherever podcasts are found, and rating and reviewing is possible. Even a 1-star review provides useful insights on exactly the sort of petty-minded and wretched individual who negatively reviews free entertainment they do not need to be consuming. So, without further dribbling, please put down your lemon meringues for the one, the only, Jon Cross.
TV is about 1,000 years behind the rest of us, right?
Right.
As evidenced by the Glenn Powell phenomenon.
Yes.
Right? In 1985, you're like, I understand Glenn Powell. I totally get Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell in 1985 makes sense. In 2025, another random, bland, minimally talented person with a pretty smile, white guy of that age group, you're just like, I'm so done. I'm so bored with the Glenn Powells of the world and all the Chris's and everyone else. Like, why are we not looking for someone different? And they go, well, Pedro Pascal. I mean, Pedro Pascal, like, we've put Pedro Pascal in everything. Shut up. You can't get mad about Glenn Powell now because Pedro Pascal. And you're like, right, but I have to put up with Powell? Like, that's my trade-off with this shit?
To your point, we knew what to do with Glenn Powell in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even in the early 2000s, right? You put them on a TV show, right, and you let them do their thing on that TV show.
In the early 90s, he might show up in the sequel to a formerly popular slasher film.
Right.
Like, he might be in I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. You know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of
That's
guy.
the best you're going to get out of him. Or he's like David Boreanaz, right? You do Angel, you do Bones, you do SWAT. That's what you do. You know, what's the other guy? Weatherly, the guy from NCIS who's like Bull or something. Right. But like even further back, like you think of like the 60s, Martin Milner, I think is the actor's name, who was in Adam 12. Yeah. It's like, that's what you do with him. You give him Adam 12, you give him a Twilight Zone episode, you do a few things like that with him, you know, or, Fred Dreyer in the 80s. That's what we did with Glenn Powell. We weren't saying like when Glenn Powell is a movie star, right? No.
It's like Matt Blucas. It's like Matt Blucas. I've told you about Blucas, right? You're aware of Blucas?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like Blucas, Tom Cruise, right, who is also responsible for Glenn Powell, or Glenn Powell's resurrection, because we had all left Glenn Powell after Expendables 3. We were like, Glenn, you're done. Goodbye, we're done. And no one, then Cruise was like, I want to make Glenn Powell a thing. And everyone was like, no, please don't make him a thing. And then Cruise made him a thing, and then everyone made him.
Well, that and the Sydney Sweeney movie, right? The romantic comedy with Sydney Sweeney. That was another
she's also in Anathema. Like everyone's like, oh, Sydney Sweeney. I'm like, name one thing. Anyway,
she's in a direct-to-video movie with Don the Dragon Wilson before she got famous, called The Whore. It's also got Paul Logan. I haven't seen it yet. I got to see it.
No. So that I'll give it to her. I've seen that. I had a screener.
You have seen it.
I interviewed Vernon Wells for the.
Oh, no way! Oh, that's awesome! I haven't been able to see that one. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, that's when I interviewed Vernon Wells back in the day. Was off the back of the Horde movie, so I didn't even know that was her. But fine, okay, good. Sydney Sweeney, fine. I don't care about her. I'm an adult. She's a adolescent's fantasy of what women might be, and I'm old enough to know that 0.0001% of women are Sydney Sweeney. So, like, it's fine. It's all good. The Glenn Powell-ification of everything, like, I just don't understand it. It's like, well, to me, he's like Adam Driver, yet less interesting. And I couldn't find Adam Driver more tedious than anyone. But Glenn Powell is even more tedious than Adam Driver. But in the same way as Adam Driver, everyone's like, oh, I'm a hip director. I'm going to put Glenn Powell in my movie. And I'm just like, and same with Adam Driver. It's like, 1 minute he's in a big action movie. Next minute he's a jarmushing around the place. You know what I mean?
Lee movie.
Yeah, he's in a Spike Lee movie. He's in a Moosh movie. It's only a minute before he shows up in a Wes Anderson movie and has a nose off with Adrian Brody.
Yeah. How did that not happen yet? How is he not? Because there's a new one coming out, right? Like the
new one, the Phoenician Scheme, and it has Michael Cera, who is sort of the 90s, early 2000s hipster version of Adam Driver, right?
Right.
Kind of. Or like Weedy. He's like the weedy driver. Like
the weedy twee kind of, yeah.
Right. So if there was a TV show like Girls before when Superbad came out or whatever, they would have cast Sarah, but because it was a few years later and Driver had come on the scene, they're like, well, he's weedy and hipsterish, but also kind of weirdly sexy to a certain type of woman. So, like, you know what I mean? So he's sort of, I find Michael Cera to be, and I like Michael Cera, but I find him to be sort of, in terms of the roles he gets, he's sort of Driver light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's only a matter of time before Wes Anderson goes, can I finally get on a Driver's schedule, please?
I think it's only a matter of time. I think Jarmusch got to him. I'm trying to think, though, like, I guess, Scorsese's done a movie with him.
Scorsese's done a movie with him. Spike Lee's done a movie with him. What was the other one? I know he did Moosh, but he did another one that wasn't Moosh. Who did the arguing married film?
Oh, right, with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, who directed that? Wasn't that a famous hipster?
I think you're right. It was because it was direct to Netflix. But yeah, he's gonna be, in a way, he's gonna be like Tom Cruise in that sense. That, like, yeah, because actually I was realizing he also did Megalopolis, so he's also worked with
Coppola, yeah.
Coppola. So, because there was a picture that somebody posted. So, Noah Baumbach.
That's that Baumbach. Yeah. Look at it. That's the transit. You've done Jarmusch, you've done Baumbach. And by the way, I recently saw Kicking and Screaming, which is Baumbach's first movie.
Right.
Based on, and it was so funny because a friend of ours, Erin, and Kim, my wife, both were like, "You've never seen Kicking and Screaming?" And I was like, "Nope, I've never seen it. Who's it by?" They were like, "Baumbach." I'm like, "Well, that explains it." Like, you know what I mean? You only have to look at Baumbach and go, "Yeah, me and him are not going to see eye to eye on how to make a movie," because look at him. Yeah. But you know, I
didn't realize he wrote. He's written a couple of what's his name? Or he wrote one. He wrote Life Aquatic and he wrote Fantastic Mr. Fox. I didn't realize that he writes movies for Wes Anderson.
Well, they're all Anderson, Baumbach, Gerwig, all these ones. Right. They're all cut from a similar cloth. Right, I like Wes Anderson as a rule, but he's also getting a little up his own corduroy ass these days. I saw Kicking and Screaming. There isn't a more like navel gazing, lack of self-awareness. Right. Hipster doesn't even cover it. It's like in Spaceballs when they go from like the white like hyperspeed or whatever to plaid, right? Kicking and Screaming is like Noah Baumbach took corduroy and went to plaid. Do you know what I mean? It's like he took hipsterism and a lack of self-awareness and navel gazing and masturbatory backslappering and everything else. It's like he took that and pushed it to plaid. That's what Kicking and Screaming is like. I found everyone in that movie to be utterly insufferable. I wanted them all. I'm like, oh, at the end of the movie, does the frat explode and all of these guys' bodies, fall out into the quad covered in blood and viscera? And I was like, no, it's a Noah Baumbach movie. So everyone just, I don't know, is incredibly referential about stuff and then fucking twats off in a tweed jacket and does nothing. And then it ends and everyone goes, oh, marvelous.
I'm looking here because I meant to click on that, but I ended up accidentally clicking on Mr. Jealousy, the movie he did after that. It's got Eric Stoltz in it, so that's like a combination.
Stoltz is in Kicking and Screaming as well. If anything, Baumbach's early movies are the Stoltz of movies. You know when you watch Eric Stoltz, Ethan Hawke has a little bit of Stoltz in it as well. He's a little bit pretentious as well. Yeah. But like when you see Stoltz, right? And he's sort of waxing rhapsodic about some subject, like he's an expert. And people are like, well, of course he's an expert. Look at him. He's Eric Stoltz. Like, oh, look at him. He exudes expert in stuff. Yeah. And yet whatever he's talking about is just utter twaddle. That's Eric Stoltz in every movie ever. The other thing I want, in terms, while we're shitting on people, fuck Tarantino. I saw a post today where Tarantino claimed that Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is a boring movie, and that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is better than it. So fuck Tarantino, because I'm sorry, the Last Crusade is, by my reckoning, Spielberg's best film.
Yes.
Better than Jaws, Crusade. And I'm not kidding. Better than Jaws.
Yeah, I love Last Crusade. He said the Crystal Skulls was better?
Yes, he said that Last Crusade was boring. He had no interest in the Sean Connery one, and then feigned ignorance like he hadn't seen it 1,000 times. Such a cock.
Well, the thing about Last Crusade was that, like, that was just, it was like one of those things where it kind of created this, like, cultural moment where it was like, you know, the first movie comes out, Raiders of the Lost Ark, then Temple of Doom comes out, and I think some people liked it, some didn't. But then, I mean, man, when you know, Last Crusade came out, everybody was all about it.
Right. Well, it's not just that. I think it's what's interesting about Last Crusade and why it genuinely makes it Spielberg's best film is that it completely balances a fun, story-based, there's a reason for it, exciting action-adventure set pieces.
Yeah.
It perfectly balances that with a legitimately touching and legitimately well-written father-son story. The scene, like, here is Tarantino. I can prove Tarantino wrong in one example. There is a scene in Last Crusade where Sean Connery and Harrison Ford sit down in the blimp after he's thrown the guy out and whatever, and they're actually sitting on the blimp and meant to be flying home, right? And Henry Sr. is reading the newspaper and muttering about some stuff, and Harrison is like looking at him and like they're having one of those like awkward father-son things. And at a certain point, Connery slams his newspaper down, puts it down on the thing, goes, okay, what is this thing? What is it? What you've always wanted to say to me? What is it that I did wrong? Tell me, give me exactly what you are. And then Harrison Ford does the best bit of acting I've ever seen anyone ever, where he literally tries to rack his brain, feels like he's been found out, and then like laughs to be like, well, I can't think of anything right now. And it's such a realistic, perfectly, like it's so well played, so well written, so well, like Tarantino can only dream, like on his deathbed, of writing a scene that well and having it acted that well. And it is, Spielberg allows these incredibly well-written, emotional, and incredibly well-played scenes to almost go unnoticed unless you're watching it for the 5th, 6th, 7th time. And while the action sequences are fun, you're now trying to like pick out the story bits. It's there for the taking. It's emotional. It's well-written. It's well-acted. It's hands down Spielberg's best film.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite of Spielberg's is Schindler's List, but I can, you know, I still enjoy that one, and I think, but Crystal Skulls, I saw Crystal Skulls, and Crystal
Skulls sucks.
It's just like, remember this from other movies?
Yeah,
and,
it's garbage.
Yeah,
It's absolute garbage. I did that thing where I left it 10 years and went back and tried to watch Crystal Skull and see if it had like mellowed over time and I preferred it. No, it's fucking awful.
Yeah, that happens. I tried that with Phantom Menace recently, and that one also didn't.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'd always hated Zack Snyder, didn't like his Superman film, but about a year and a half ago, I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll just watch all the DC movies. I think Marvel was having a bit of a drought, and I was like, let me just see if I've remembered these wrong and whatever. And each movie got worse and worse and worse and worse. Yeah. Every single movie. The only good movie is Wonder Woman 1. That's the only good movie. All the others suck.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that the Suicide Squad one. I kind of, the Birds of Prey one. There's elements of that kind of grew on me.
Suicide Squad one, what? The Will Smith one or the
the Will Smith one? Yeah.
I wasn't a big fan of that one. But
I didn't hate it, but the Birds of Prey one, I didn't like the title, the whole fantabulous or whatever. I don't like that. I don't know why people are using words like that. But overall, that one. And I guess the other thing is Ewan McGregor. Yeah, he could have been a better baddie. But yeah,
I didn't see that one. I don't think I saw Birds of Prey.
Yeah, that one's, it's not horrible.
Okay.
But it's sort of like a spin-off of the first Suicide Squad where Margot Robbie comes back to play Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't care about any of those films. And I certainly don't care about Quentin Tarantino, and fuck that guy. But anyway, Matt, hello. Yes. Welcome to the After Movie Diner. We have been talking things we don't like anymore. Like a pair of grumpy old men, and that's all right because this is our podcast. If you don't like it, stop listening. Go fuck off. Go watch a Zack Snyder film and masturbate into a cup. I've no idea what to tell you, but just don't hang around here listening to us. Matt, hello, sir, from the DTVC podcast, direct-to-video connoisseur podcast. Sir, what have you been watching, and how has your week been? And tell us all of the things. We want to hear from you, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of stuff, outside of the movies that we're talking about here today, I watched the New Mutants movie. Speaking of comic book movies, it was not a horrible. I didn't hate it, but it's kind of another sign with these movies where it's like.
Wait, I don't know this movie. What is this movie?
Oh, the New Mutants one. So it was the last of like the Fox mutant movies, they
had a new one.
Yeah, they had one called New Mutants that they released it in the in like 2020, so during the pandemic. And,
okay. I don't remember that. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So and I was just, I was kind of struck by the fact that looking kind of doing an autopsy on those X-Men movies that Fox did. And it is one of those things with these, these comic book movies is that, I used to read comics in the late 80s, early 90s, and so I followed the X-Men and stuff like that. But it's like on the one hand, you're hoping you're getting these movies that you enjoy, or they're doing things with comic book movies that we never thought was going to happen before, especially with Marvel. But on the other hand, there is that corporate side of it, and it's like, oh, so Disney buys Fox, and they're just like, oh, there's a couple X-Men movies left, just put them out, and let them, whatever happens to them happens. We don't really care. And, now they're figuring out how they want to get these characters into the comic books. And, it's just, it's like that combination of like, oh, you want these movies to be fun. You want to have a, fun experience in the theater. But then there's this corporate element of like, oh, well, if we're putting $250 million in the movie, it's got to make $1 billion. And if it doesn't cross like $400 million, we're not going to use that character ever again. We're not going to ever make another movie with that character.
Right.
It's like that kind of thing. It's like, movies can't just be movies with, it's like, we just want fun comic book movies. We just want to have a fun time, and we don't really care who else likes it or doesn't like it. It's more like just, it's my experience and I want it. But, it's the reality with these comic book movies, because they've become this massive global corporate phenomenon thing. It's like, if,
I feel like it's kind of, Howard the Duck, apart from a few genuine great people who love that movie, as you should. It's a fantastic movie. It's one of the top 5 comic book movies of all time. Is Howard the Duck. And I'm not even kidding. I love that movie unapologetically and unironically. I genuinely love that movie. Except Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins fucks the whole thing up. Everyone else, I love. Tim Robbins, I don't know. Like, Tim Robbins is like, I'm in a comedy. Look at me being comic. And you're like, no, you're not in a comedy. Tone it down. But everyone else is fantastic. And and I know he's a terrible person. But Jeffrey Jones being like, I want my eggs, is like my favorite bit of the movie. When he's like the interdimensional being and he's sat in the diner. He doesn't. He go, these are not my eggs, or something like that. Anyway.
I haven't seen that one in forever. I'm going to see it again.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Howard the Duck's fantastic. But it has such a stigma, rightly or wrongly, that they have still never greenlit a new Howard the Duck movie, even with all the whatever. And I know he's been in Guardians of the Galaxy and, whatever, has shown up as a cameo here and there. But essentially, like, no one's making a Howard the Duck movie because it has such a stink on it, based on years and years of completely unfair narrative about the success or failure of Howard the Duck. I put it this way: they're still putting it out on 4K Steelbook, so someone's watching it. You know what I mean?
Right, and I believe it's on Tubi now. I think it's one of the
but like
streamers.
people are still talking about it, so it's not like it's not like there's not an audience out there. But Hollywood just has to ruin everything. I just think that once something gets a stink on it, it doesn't matter. It can go forever and ever and ever, and it doesn't matter how much you prove that it's wrong. It becomes accepted wisdom, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah, and what it is, right, is if you get something like Big Mama's House, that like does like 3 or 4 times its budget in the box office, and they're like, we got to greenlight 3 sequels, or 2 sequels, whatever it is. Like that's something that can get a legacy sequel 20 years later, because it's like, well, at some point there was a successful Big Mama's House, and so it's right at some point,
it's like we're bound to get House Party 5 at some point, point. Because they'll look back and they go, wait, they made 4 House Party films? Surely someone somewhere must have watched all 4.
Well, they did the reboot one. They did the reboot one where these kids were at
did they
LeBron
do
James's
a reboot House
They
Party?
did. It was like, I think they were at like LeBron James' house. I remember seeing a couple commercials for it. And
did that actually come out? I thought I dreamt it. Okay, fair enough. All right.
Because technically the 4th one is like a 75-minute direct-to-video movie.
Yes.
But I think there's a new House Party that came out. 2023 it came out.
Wow. Okay. So I didn't dream it. All right. I thought I just came up with that.
I don't know how it did. I don't know how.
It clearly didn't go very well because I've never heard of it.
Yeah. It grossed $9 million at the box office.
It actually went out into cinemas?
It did. Yeah. So it was a Warner Brothers New Line thing. So I guess they must have put it out in the box office, and then maybe now it's on Max, I think. I don't know. I'm not seeing. Let me see if it shows on stream. Oh, it is on Max. Yeah, Max.
Wait, a Kid and Play in it?
They must be. I don't know though.
Yeah. How do you make a House Party 5 with that one? By the way, we're getting a Harold and Kumar 4.
Right. Yeah.
Other things I don't need in 2026. Right.
It's the franchise thing. It's this idea that, like, somebody made the point, and I think this is a valid point, that if George Lucas was born in like the 70s or 80s, and he went to Disney or any of the studio, Fox, whatever, with Star Wars, they'd be like, we can't do this. Like, what is this? It's not based off anything.
It's almost every movie made between 1925 and 1995 would never get greenlit today because it's not an existing IP.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. However, we are here tonight.
Yes.
We're here tonight. Well, actually, I have a couple more things about streaming. Yeah. I have a couple more John's rants. Here is a couple more of John's rants about streaming. So first things first. That thing they do with the end credits, the movie just ended and it goes up into a little square in the corner. Yeah. And then a trailer starts running for some shit you don't want to watch. And then it's like, what did you think of it? Then it's asking you questions. Then there's buttons and things. I fucking hate
Give
that.
Me the credits. I want the credits.
Passion. I want the credits.
Yes.
I was just watching Paddleton. I rewatched Paddleton, the sort of indie comedy tragedy with Ray Romano and your man from the morning show. What's his name? Mark Duplass.
Yeah.
And it's a very sort of twee indie dramedy, and I quite enjoyed it, and it's all good. And but I've seen it before, and it has a really emotional finale because it's about Ray Romano dealing with the fact that Mark Duplass has cancer and how he deals with that, right? So the movie finished, and I was all ready to feel that emotion. It's like people in the theater who stand up the moment the credits roll. I want to break their legs. If you're not sitting for 2 minutes and taking a breath at the end of a movie, then it's a bad movie. Or you're a bad person, right? I like to sit at the end of a movie and give myself a minute and go, how do I feel about that? The only times I stand right up and walk out is when I knew 10 minutes in that it was a dud.
Right. Exactly.
So when streaming does it and starts to be like, have you seen this? Vote for this. Put this, thumbs up, blah, blah, blah. I'm apoplectic with anger about that. ruins movies.
Well, because the other thing too is that, like, you know, we have like review sites and things like that. Like, I want to know, like, who are the stunt coordinators? Because one of the things is that IMDb is not always correct about these things. You know,
Right.
IMDb will say somebody, you know, they might not even list a fight coordinator or a stunt, you know, but if you go through and see the credits scroll, you'll see it. But I also, like you said, I want to know certain things about these movies as well. Like, I want to know where it was shot. Again, IMDb only has so much of that information. I want to,
Right.
I want to get more of that. I want to hear the end songs and things like that they want. And like you said, there is a point too where there's a moment of reflection and, you know, where you kind of, I want to gather my thoughts on, you know, especially if I'm going to write a review, but even if I just kind of want to, like, you know, what did I like about that movie? What did that movie do for me? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to feel the emotion you felt, you know, as the credits roll. And I just, it's that bothers me no end. Please send an email to hello@aftermoviediner.com if it bothers you as well. If it doesn't bother you and you think it's a great invention, don't write to me because I already hate you. And I don't care what your opinion is. It is a terrible thing. If you too, however, think it's a terrible thing, write to me at hello@aftermoviediner.com. Just write, yes, John, it is a terrible thing, to hello@aftermoviediner.com. And next week, which will be in a month and a half because I'm only really releasing these after movie diners when I can be bothered. The next episode, I will read your name out and you'll get a lollipop. Okay, so that's that bit of business. I forget what my second rant was, but maybe it'll come up down the road. So tonight on this episode, or today on this episode, or this morning, whenever you're listening to this, that, by the way, is the most hackneyed podcast thing to say on a podcast ever. The most cliched thing is to be like, good morning. Well, actually, good night. Well, actually, it could be any time. Oh, you could be listening to this. But anyway, so, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, we are talking tonight about, we're talking mainly about two movies, but I want to throw a little third movie in there because I want this to be a new action showcase. And we have 3 new action films by 3 different sort of corners of the action market, although arguably Statham and Adkins kind of fulfill the same space, just at different levels of the industry. But we should also talk about that when it comes to a working man. We should talk about the fact that Adkins is doing far better fucking movies, and he deserves the 40 million price tag, not Jason Statham at this point. And I never thought that I'd be saying that, Matt, because I was Gatham for Statham my entire life. And then he made that fucking Operation Rue de Guerre and Meg 2. And then fucking, what else did he make? Beekeeper. Fucking Beekeeper. Those 3 films in a row. I'm sorry. You've lost me. You know, it's bad enough that he was in Homefront where fucking James Franco was the bad guy. Oh, I wonder who's going to win that fight.
Right.
Franco versus Statham.
Right.
All because Franco, that little fucking spunk germ, wanted to, I wanted to ironically do like a 90s action film. So I, saddled up my fucking wagon to Stallone's fucking thing. And I don't saddled up my wagon. Hitched my wagon to Statham and stuff. I saddled up my wagon. What are you talking about, John?
It made sense to me.
Yeah, everyone understood what I meant. So I think Adkins, certainly having seen Diablo, which is Scott Adkins' latest, and one that I'm recommending to everyone who will listen, that I think when you see Diablo, you will say, yep, Scott Adkins has surpassed Statham in the stakes. So Matt has not seen Diablo yet, but I do want to talk about it just as I'll give people just a little overview, and then we can drop it into the conversation because I think it is pertinent to both Black Creek and Working Man in terms of the Adkins of it all and how really Adkins should be in all of these things because he's fantastic. Diablo, very quickly then, Scott Adkins plays a guy who has just come out of prison and is sort of on the run a little bit, but he's trying to get to a certain person and save a certain person. And there is the worst assassin to have ever assassinated, Diablo, played by Zeror. Is it Mark Zeror?
Marco Zaror.
Marco Zaror, yeah, played by Marco Zaror, who is a badass, like evil, bald, fake metal hand assassin. Like he is a James Bond via a Chuck Norris movie assassin. You know what I mean? He's like the thing that can only exist in like a mad 90s straight to video movie. And Adkins, as our regular schmo who happens to know lots of martial arts techniques, has to save a woman and get her away from this assassin. There is more to it than that, but I do not want to spoil it. However, it is a fantastic movie. I've been saying that it is Scott Adkins's John Wick. It's Scott Adkins's Safe, one of the best Statham movies. It is on par, I thought, with Ninja 2. And considering how long ago he made Ninja 2 and the fact that he's 49 now, for him to be churning these movies out with the regularity and the skill and the precision and everything else that he had, and you watch more than I do lately, but I that Adkins is not a bigger star, and that Statham is still allowed to shit out things like The Beekeeper and A Working Man. Right. I'm sorry, I don't care how many Fast and Furiouses you're in, Statham, you're benched. And I tell you what it is, Matt, he stopped making movies in England. Statham was always the guy that would do one Hollywood cheeseball action movie in order to pay for a passion project filmed in England. And whether it was Blitz or whether it was Hummingbird or whether it was the proposed Layer Cake sequel, which he never got off the ground, that was meant to be whatever, that's what he used to do. Yeah. And then somewhere along the line, he lost his way. And I know he went back with Guy Ritchie and did a couple of Guy Ritchie movies, one of which was decent and one of which was not in any way at all. It was terrible. But I don't know, man. Somewhere along the way, we lost our Statham, and now he's just treading water compared to Scott Adkins, who just seems to get better and 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 try harder and harder and harder and harder. Even when he himself gets frustrated with the lack of budget, lack of time, lack of energy, all the rest of it. And considering him and Marco Zaror, and I reached out to Scott on his private Facebook channel, because I have his private Facebook channel, as opposed to his actor page. And I told him, this is great. You should do more of these, blah, 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 blah. And they are planning a sequel. Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
I will take Diablo being franchised, because I would watch the shit out of that. And when we're talking about end credit sequences, let that end credit play, because the soundtrack, dude, over the end credits. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. I put some of it on Instagram. I think you saw me do the video.
I did.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds amazing, because you were saying, Ninja 2, I think, is right up there with, it's probably after Avengement, and Savage Dog's another one of his I really like, but sounds like Diablo is one I can slot right in that top 3. His.
Yeah. It is. I would put Diablo in his top 3. I really would. And it's because it does the PM thing, but in the good way. Meaning, yes, it does action every 6 to 7 minutes. Yes, very often it contrives ways to have action where otherwise it wouldn't. But it keeps that up. It keeps that up in a good way. But it concentrates, as PM does in its best movies, both on the cinematography, because the cinematography in Diablo, even though it's filmed in very poor industrial, like slum type places, the widescreen, the anamorphic that they're using is absolutely stunning, just fantastic. It's a really beautiful movie. And secondly, they've bothered to write characters. So even though, yes, there's definitely like a mega evil, cartoony kind of feel to the bad guy, the character stuff that they give Scott and the person he's trying to save and some other people in the movie is really, really, really good. So I equate it to PM, where PM would be like, well, as long as we whip some character stuff in it, as long as everyone has a good character and you care about the people and blah, 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 blah. And as long as we film it right with great cinematography, and as long as we kind of have action every 6 or 7 minutes, people will forgive us the odd low budget thing, because the trains are rolling and everyone's on board and it's all happy. And, it's Jim Belushi and he's about to fuck a guy dressed as a gorilla. So, Isn't that a thing that happens in trading places? I met Jim Belushi, by the way. That's more news. I met Jim Belushi. We haven't even talked about that yet.
Yes.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. We'll
that
talk
was
about
fantastic.
That in a minute.
Yes.
So we're all on the train. We're rolling along, and things are great. And even if there's a little low budget hiccup on the line, it's fine. We keep the train moving, right? So that's what I think Diablo did, and I applaud it for it. I couldn't. And I hadn't watched an Adkins movie in a while. I think the last one I'd seen was One Shot, the first one. And I hadn't watched it in a while. And I'd collected a lot of his older movies, and I'd been watching those. But I really hadn't sat down and gone, I want to watch an Adkins movie. I watched Diablo. I immediately wanted to watch 4 more Adkins movies. Like, that's how pumped it got me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I need to see it. Yeah, I think... So usually, like my cable company will do like these deals where you can get like cheap rentals, like $1, things like that. So I'm always like looking for like what the movie is I should use it on.
So, I mean, I just
Diablo sounds like that
because I was just like, that's fucking awesome. But yes, it's definitely worth your time. So that said, 2 more films that may or may not be worth your time, but this expert panel of me and Matt will be deliberating over the next hour as to whether either of them are worth your time or not, or you'll just be listening to us because, I don't know, you're that tired of life. You're that bored. You're Quentin Tarantino, and the only thing that will quench your boredom is not a Last Crusade, but listening to Matt and I talk about what a massive knob Tarantino is. If that's you, then these deliberations on these next 2 movies are for you, and you should be thrilled about it. Yeah. But yes, before we do that, I'm gonna sidetrack again. I met Jim Belushi. Why are we not talking about Jim Belushi right now?
Right. That's amazing that you met him. I saw the picture and everything. Yeah. That's fantastic.
He signed a picture of himself, and he signed it, which, by the way, I didn't ask for. I asked him to sign the 2 VHS.
Right.
He just went ahead and kept signing shit. Yeah. I think he was maybe a little high, because I feel like if I'd kept putting stuff in front of him, he would just be like, and who do I make this out to? John. Okay, great. Because he just kept signing shit. But he wrote a great quote on the thing. I think it said, "Be cool, be funny, be brave." And I was like, that's some deep shit there, Belush. That is some late night, 2 a.m. Run that through your mind's eye kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is some deep stuff. Be cool, be funny, be brave.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's just that whipping in of the brave at the end. You're just like, is Belushi giving me a call to action? Is he saying, go out there, John? Be funny, be cool. Be fucking brave, brother. Yeah. That's what I think Belushi's saying to me. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
It touched my soul. It saved my life.
No, I think that is absolutely amazing. I just think that, the whole thing is fantastic. I wish weed was legal here in Pennsylvania. I should see if he's going to go to some of the places in New Jersey, and I could go try to.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that he started in Oregon. And I assume, because I think the rule in Massachusetts still, and I might be wrong about this, but if you're selling it there, you have to grow it there.
Right,
I think that's right. So I think what they've done is they've brought a few strains of the Belushi weed, the seed mixture, to Massachusetts, to the Pass, which is the dispensary where he was, and I believe in their grow tent or whatever they have out the back, I believe that they're growing some Belush, exclusive Belush weed, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
He doesn't do edibles, which is why I'm sadly have not partaken, because I do not smoke.
Right.
He does like a resin, a vape, a flower, and a pre-roll, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they all do. Like, I think all states, you have to grow it within the states. I think that's an issue in New York right now, is that they've grown too much and they can't sell it. And it's like, well, what? Because it's like so difficult to get a license to be able to sell. It's like a whole big mess. But I think it's how they get around the fact that weed is illegal on a country level, on the federal level. So, but it's not like an interstate commerce deal where
it's so dumb. Yeah. It's like the whole gambling being illegal except in certain places,
right?
And you're like, that's just dumb,
right? Yeah.
And I get it that they've used it as a way to kind of weirdly pay reparations to the Native American people. Right. By the way, the worst possible way to pay anyone,
right.
What they're owed for stealing their land outright.
Yes,
is to go here. Have a casino, run a business.
Go into bed with a billionaire who is going to bilk as much of their share out of it as possible.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So they're all, I love human beings are so dumb that they invent laws and then invent like workarounds.
Yes.
And you just kind of go, then don't have the law.
Right.
Just then eradicate the law.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. It's
because if you can do a workaround to something, you know what I mean?
It's
it would be like saying, I'm building this jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
But if you turn the pieces over, they're all numbered, so you know in what order to put them.
Right.
What would be like? Then don't have a jigsaw puzzle. Like what is? You know what I mean?
So when I was in college, I was the term was like supplemental instructor for the athletes. But essentially, it was like I would do these review sessions for Anthropology 101, 102 with the athletic department. It was my way to get into being a teaching assistant. But anyway, I remember, Anthropology 101, 102, it was 3 or 4 multiple choice tests for your grade. And so, if you just pick C every time, you're guaranteed to probably get a C on the test. But I remember the football players coming to me and wanting me to smuggle them a copy of the exam before. And I'm like, guys, if you just read the book, if you just read the chapters, you're going to get a C on this test. Like, there's no need for like all this subterfuge and all this stuff. But I think it's like wired in them, like as football players or whoever, it's wired in people to like want to get around things as opposed to just doing them because they're easier. It's just easier to do them,
Right.
I think there is like a thing of like, I got to get around stuff as opposed to just being like, well, the easiest thing is just to repeal the law. It's like.
Right. The easiest thing is to just admit that everything we do is made up.
Right.
None of it matters a lick to any greater universal scheme.
Mm-hmm.
It is all just the whims and folly of dumb men, predominantly. Anyway, but yes, Scott Adkins is incredible, and I met Jim Belushi. These are truths, and you can accept them or not, but I'm telling you they are truths. There is photographic evidence of me meeting Jim Belushi, and there is filmic evidence of Scott Adkins being awesome. So they are truths, as proven by me and a camera. So those are things that happened. Let us go into, sir, shall we go into either A Working Man or Black Creek? Now, I think we both liked Black Creek a little more than A Working Man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we want to go end on a high or end on a
maybe end on a high.
Let's start with A Working Man.
Yeah.
And I was initially like, one of the reasons why Matt even agreed to watch it was that I watched it one night and somehow really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like somehow in the middle of it like turned a corner for me, and I really enjoyed the second half. I have subsequently rewatched it, not all the way through, but subsequently rewatched a lot of like key sections from it. I've realized I was wrong. It's not as bad. It's not as bad as The Beekeeper, which I rewatched as well. I rewatched The Beekeeper. The Beekeeper is unmitigated horseshit of the highest order. The Beekeeper is one of the silliest films ever made, and I have seen some very silly films.
Yeah.
However, this one is just such a weird beast.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird beast.
Yeah.
I cannot explain the plot because I'm so confused as to who everyone is.
Right.
But Matt, could you try and sum up the
plot?
Well,
because it's your classic trafficking trope. They're trying to throw a curveball by, instead of having it be like a rich white girl, she's a rich Latino girl, but it's still the same idea. She's kidnapped, and some ring of local baddies, they sell these girls to the highest bidder because it's all done right. It's all that kind of thing.
And they sell girls to the highest bidder, but then they like just basically keep her chained up. When
Right.
she does come across her so-called John, who is going to be, doing terrible things to her, she bites his cheek, and they keep her alive. Like they don't fucking just flat out murder her and go, she's too much trouble.
Yeah.
She rips his cheek off. This guy who's supposedly worth, millions, thousands, whatever.
Yeah.
And then so it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense.
And there's like a whole Statham's trying to track down the traffickers. There's this whole meth dealing thing where he has to go undercover and pretend to be a meth dealer to be able to get closer to them. And it's almost like Stallone is saying, because I think Stallone wrote this, or it's part of the story, that Stallone,
he co-wrote it with David Ayer and others.
So there's a sense of like, okay, everybody's on the same fugazi, like white identity MAGA trafficking fantasy, right? This idea of like, usually like they're Mexican crime lords that are kidnapping women and bringing them across the border. It's a whole like Facebook chain letter kind of thing of like, if you find a bottle of, if you park your car at the Hobby Lobby and find a bottle of water on the hood, somebody's going to traffic you. Or if you walk into a club and somebody sprays perfume on you, you're going to get knocked out and wake up in Juarez or something like that. It's that kind of fugaziness. And Stallone was it's almost like Stallone was like, well, yes, we're going to use that same fugazi trope kind of thing with the same kind of like, my ideal salt of the earth male hero character that I cosplay a lot as, we're going to put that in there, but we've got to add something more. So let's add in this whole drug dealing undercover element. Like, let's add in, like you talked about, the biker with the Gang of Thrones, like that. Like, we'll add in all these elements, like the rich people doing like some 1920s themed party way out in the woods or something, in some like abandoned mansion. That's where they do their trafficking and gambling and stuff. We'll throw that stuff in to give it like some more weight, and then have the action scenes, and that's going to be enough different that you're not going to notice all the same crap that you're seeing in everything else. And to be fair,
the other thing they do is they flip it though.
Yes.
So instead of it being Hispanic traffickers, it is Russian mob, right? And the Russians are meant to now be our friend. Like if this was a MAGA movie, the Russians would be our friends, not our enemies.
Well, not quite, right? Because the Russian mob are bad. It's the Putinites and those cats that are cool. The oligarchs are cool. The mob, right. You don't like the mob, the Russian mob, they're bad. You don't like Soviets, you don't like communists. But the Putin crew, the oligarchs, those people, they're cool. We're good with that.
Well, either way, the bad guys are Russians.
Yeah.
The woman who's been kidnapped is Hispanic.
Right.
And the woman who's been kidnapped is not it's not a damsel in distress.
Right.
She causes probably more shit than they've done to her.
Yeah.
Like she's badass. So all I'm saying is, while I totally take your point, and yes, watching a working man, much like Beekeeper, is a lot like watching. It's not Fox News scare tactic. It's sort of like the New York Post scare tactic.
Right.
Like it's equally aligned, but it's also just kind of silly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In its presentation.
Yeah.
In the UK, it would be like the Sun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
You've got like the Daily Mail that's like the real right-wing hand-rigging, blah, 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 blah. But then you've got the Sun that's more just like, well, lads like tits and fish and chips, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of harmless laddery, but
that's what
underneath the harmless laddery, it's fascist.
Instead of lads like fish and chips, right? This is more like it's kind of a similar, but it's like Stallone saying, like real men like ribs and cheap beer, and it's like,
Well, the weirdest thing about the movie, and it's tonally very fucking weird.
Yes.
Is that at the beginning of the movie, I mean, look, first of all, none of it's realistic. So when I say realistic, I mean realistic for one of these movies. But like the opening sequence, right, where he's on the construction line and, we meet the people who run the construction site, who are these very well-meaning, friendly Latino family. He's best friends with them, blah, 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 blah. Even though he sleeps in their car, sleeps in his car, but they've saved his life. They're clearly not paying him very much if he's sleeping in his car. But okay, he's loyal to these people who are not paying him. I'm going to repeat this: who are not paying him enough.
Well, so no, this is
to have an actual residence.
No. This is Stallone's salt of the earth thing. He's pulling the storyline from over the top, where Robert Loggia is taking his son away, right? Only in this case, it's some other father-in-law of Statham's that's taking his daughter away.
It's a daughter's grandfather.
Right, exactly, right. So
who happens to be a hipster velvet hat wearing, like flouncy artist sculptor guy. Which is the weirdest. I mean, it's just so weird.
It's weird. But the idea is that for him to pay for attorneys, because the father-in-law is rich, so for him to pay attorneys, he's essentially foregoing a residence. And so then his lawyers tell him, well, no, if you want to get your daughter back, you kind of need a house. That's kind of, the court's not going to let you have her back if you don't have a house. So then he gets some like scummy apartment or whatever. But yeah, so that's like part of the salt of the earth thing, right? Is it to,
but shouldn't, if they've saved his life and got him off the streets, why is he sleeping in his car?
Right.
And why are they clearly not paying him any money at all?
No, that's what I mean. It's like I guess they don't know, but I think it's because he is said it like I don't know what rent is, right? I mean, but I guess it's no rent, no utilities. He's saving all that money to pay, six figures worth of lawyers. Yeah, which
So that's the other bit that we didn't get to, right? So Statham is a father who is, has a violent war record, and also like got in trouble or whatever when he came back as a veteran and blah, 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 blah. So his wife's father, his wife who's died, his wife's father has taken custody of the daughter and is some sort of weirdo, avant-garde, pretentious, tracksuit wearing, velvet hat sporting, weird, flouncy performance artist, sculptor. I mean, I don't know what was going through David Aaron Stallone's head. I really don't, but okay. Because they were like, well, we've got to make the grandfather something. Well, I don't know, make him an accountant. Like, who gives a fuck? What are you? No. But instead we have to have a scene where Statham pulls up to get his daughter for his visitation day. And in the background, there are like people dressed as pixies dancing around a giant geodesic dome while someone's flame torturing a puppy or something. You're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But that's it. All artists are millionaires, and they're the ones that we should all be afraid of, or whatever, I guess. Right. They're trying to fuck over all the pretentious middle-class artists and upper-class artists. They're the ones that are coming for your common working man.
No, and
with
they
their
are
flouncy
not
velvet hats.
Right. They are not your salt of the earth, right? Which is great because Stallone, who is an artist himself, I mean, he needs to, he likes to cosplay as this salt of the earth guy, but he's an artist too. The Statham's character would beat the crap out of him too if he got a chance to.
Yes,
he doesn't respect Stallone either. But either way, that's this whole thing, right? And of course that guy gets the kind of the embarrassing scene when his house gets set on fire by the Russian mob, and Statham gives him the fireman's carry out the door.
Right. You mean the fire scene where they couldn't even afford to actually have real fire in the film?
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait a minute. You spent all that money to establish the fact that the grandfather is some kind of like wackadoo artist by having this big fucking, Alice in Wonderland mad horseshit going on behind him when Statham pulls up for his visitation day, which, by the way, didn't even need to be a scene. No, but okay, it's the whole fucking scene.
Right.
You spend all the money on that, and then when we get to the fire sequence where Statham should really be running through things, knocking down doors and being a hero, he's got a slight orange glow on his face. Someone just flopped an orange plastic over the lens of the lights. No, over the lens of lights. Over the, flopped an orange gel over the shade of the light, and then went, there we go, that's fire. And David Ayer just went, Can you kind of wave the gel a bit so it looks more like fire? There we go. Yeah. Great.
Right. You couldn't get Antonio Margheriti to make a model of a house and set it on fire like that. If you're that cheap,
for $40 million, you get a lighting guy wafting an orange gel in front of them.
Right. Yeah. So to your point, though, I think to your point, like I think when I first watched this, I had this whole I've seen these tropes so many times before. It's tired. It's old. But to your point, there's so many of these like ridiculous elements to it that it does have like it's not like, maybe it's not enough to save it completely, but
Right.
it is enough to be like, I don't know what I'm watching here, but I can maybe give it a little bit more time or something. I can.
So what I was going back to is, yes, tonally it's all over the shop, right? So the opening does its best to try and be quasi-realistic slash sort of glossy Con Air style Hollywood actioner, right? So like when he goes to see Michael Pena, like it's all golden light coming through the curtains, and it's all very kind of Bruckheimer-esque, but semi-realistic. Like when you see him working on the construction site, it looks like a normal construction site. They're not making it look like a sunny day when it's not a sunny day. Statham's wearing his traditional flannel and wax jacket or whatever whatever the common working man wears, and that's what's happening, and it is what it is. And so you have all that going on, right? And then suddenly, out of nowhere, right? Because as you said, in order for them to get to the point where he's like, this is who kidnapped her, and this is who I have to go after. Right. They've decided, and I quite like this aspect to it, even though they tie themselves up in knots with it. They decided to have him do a little bit of detective work. So it's one step up from Taken, where he basically just beats the answer out of people in every step of the thing. Statham kind of goes somewhere and you can see like David Ayer and Stallone being like, yeah, it's going to be like a film noir or something. Like you can see them saying in their head, because he'll find like a matchbook or something, or he'll find like, he'll find like a flashlight that has a logo on it or something. I forget, but like the way he gets from one detective bit to the next detective bit is, there's a great bit where we've already seen him like sit in the car for hours, and then he literally pulls out of an envelope the wanted poster, or the missing girl poster, on which it literally says last seen in like Dave's bar or whatever. And he goes, oh, I should probably go to Dave's bar. And I'm like, weren't you sitting in your car for hours? Like if you'd looked at that back at the apartment, you could have just driven straight to Dave's bar and saved us hours of montage of you sitting in a car.
Right.
Because apparently on the fucking poster of the woman you're meant to be looking for, it says last seen in Dave's bar. But yeah, he'll go to Dave's bar. He'll see that the guy's dealing. He'll go like find a drug addict in the bathroom. He talks to them. Like it's like one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. But what it is it's this weird like Statham's Dante's Inferno, because each bar he goes to and each like informant that he speaks to, it gets more and more and more like a Vampire Diaries style CW show from the mid to late 2000s. Yeah. With each bar, it becomes more and more Vampire Diaries, to the point where he then rocks up on a motorbike to like Willie's bar or whatever the hell it is, or Cynthia's or whatever it is. I forget who Cynthia's? No, it's Nikki's or something. It's like one name like that.
Yeah.
He pulls up to the bar. There's like, rock me, baby, like a wagon wheel, rock me. That song play. Oh, mama, rock me. Like some sort of, popularized, folky, hipster ditty, right?
Right.
Dance playing. Statham pulls up at an actual, literal, like neon biker bar, like something that would be out of a Robert Rodriguez cosplay B movie, you know what I mean? Right. Where if a bunch of students from a frat house decided to get together and make a Robert Rodriguez style movie, this is the biker bar that it would appear in. And he goes into that, and then he has to go several layers deeper and meet more and more people. And eventually he comes to like this guy who lives out the back of the biker bar in just what seems to be a tent with lots of red lights in it. Yeah. And then he sat atop a fucking Game of Thrones motorbike exhaust pipe chair that is surrounded by Stallone skulls. Because as we all know from the Expendables, Stallone loves skulls. Yeah. So what I don't understand here, Matt, right, is what are the skulls then? Are these all the people that the biker people have killed? Are these all skulls of bikers who died riding the most dangerous form of transport, which is motorbiking? What are they actually vampires in HBO's early 2000s True Blood series? Like, what is going on?
Right.
Because he's like he's like this big black guy with a big leather coat and a horned helmet and a fucking like what. It looked like Buffy the fucking Vampire Slayer, but with like a $40 million budget. That's what.
Well, because it's that, right? It's that. I mean, another one that I was thinking is like if you'd made a Blade sequel in the late '90s, 2000s. That's like one of the mid-tier vampire guys that he goes to fight. It's like that, It's like, so you get all that, right? You get this crazy Game of Thrones thing. You get this crazy set, all this stuff, and the guy sets all of his goons on Statham, and Statham beats the crap out of him, and then suddenly the guy's like, "Oh, hey, you know what? I served with the military too. We're brothers now." And it's like, so suddenly it goes from like this big Game of Thrones, like '90s, 2000s, like over the top thing to salt of the earth crap again. It's like and that's where you're right about the whole tonal thing, where it's like, no, that guy needs to have like sunglasses on. There needs to be techno music playing in the background, and it just needs to always be that.
It looked. I tell you what, it looked. It looked like a cut scene from Dracula 2000.
Yes,
the fucking. The beginning of Dracula 2000 where they go into the fucking crypt and every fucking thing has skulls and crucifixes and garlic and everything, and they're like, why do you think that they have all these skulls and crucifixes and garlic? And they're like, it's just to ward people off. I'm sure there's some real treasure down here. Right. You know what I mean? Like people, doesn't someone get stabbed on a wooden stake or something? So. And they're like, oh, they're just trying to scare us. I'm like, someone fucking died.
Right.
Then they break out, they kidnap and steal Dracula. Yeah. Right. That's how that movie begins. And all of them are wearing what I would wear if I was going to a Halloween party in the late 90s, trying to like cosplay as Tank Girl and or The Matrix. That's that's how they're dressed.
Right.
Well, that's what this scene is in this movie. And I was suddenly, and so I think this is what it was for me, is that I got so enamored with the ridiculous horror aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I got so confused by what was going on, but I really enjoyed the action. Like there are two sequences in here that are Statham's best action since, probably Crank 2 or something like that. Like there's definitely a few action sequences in here that I think beat more of his later stuff.
Yeah.
So I genuinely did think that. But like when you put that together with David Ayer making the CW show, like there's a bit, Matt, where the woman who's been kidnapped this whole time, even before Statham can get to her, she escapes, Matt. Yes. She gets out. She escapes. Like, they've let her live as well, even though she attacks the guy with the ponytail. We've got to get onto him. The Twin Peaks dude with the, like, funny head and the ponytail and the little beard. Yes. Oh, where did David Ayer pull him from?
Oh, God.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
But so... at one point, she escapes and she's running through this like dark wood that's lit only with like shades of green and gray and things like that, and lit by an enormous fake moon, like the silliest fake moon you've ever seen. You remember Conan O'Brien when he had his TBS show and he had an enormous moon behind him, and he was always taking the piss out of the fact that it was just ridiculously large and he didn't understand why the set dress put it there, right? That's what this moon is like.
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous. It's like a moon. What's the Michael Pare werewolf movie by Eric Red, who did The Hitchhiker?
Oh,
Bad Moon Rising.
Oh, right.
It's like a scene out of Bad Moon Rising, and at one point, she runs out onto this like plateau in the middle of the woods with this enormous moon behind her, like she's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and like runs off into the night. I half expected to hear an owl hooting, you know what I mean? Like a woohoo, like as she ran off into the night. It was so. I think what it was that in my desire to enjoy a Statham film again, I got so wrapped up in the ridiculous cod theatrics of it all that I sort of just went with it and quite enjoyed it. And then sort of every 10 minutes there was some ridiculous action scene. And I sort of just, but I mean, it was, I can fully admit, Matt, it was terrible and very stupid.
Well, because the thing is, even like this thing about the young woman who's been kidnapped, how she escapes and all this thing, it goes to like a similar trope about this whole like victimization of women that somehow there's a part to play. And they have a part to play in it. They're like, oh, well, if only you had been stronger, only you had been, at stood up, been more capable of standing up for yourself, or fighting this person off, you wouldn't have been a victim, right? Like that's another part of this here that I think is just always problematic too. That the reason why she survives is because she knows karate a little bit, and she's like willing to like bite the guy's cheek or do these other things. And it's like, no, like there's a lot of things that I don't know. That always smacks me as odd too. But like you said, in most of these movies, these things happen like in these gross like cell locations. And right. Here, like your point is, we're getting either this big moon thing that's just ridiculous, or we're getting right. this crazy like burnt out mansion thing that these people are, like.
Isn't there a point where it zooms in and some like lank haired villain is playing a piano mysteriously?
Yes, playing a lute. There was a lute or something, or a lyre too. It's like, what is going on here? Well, Statham's like shooting the place up.
What about the pink hat?
Yes.
What about the pink hat? What is the pink hat all about?
Right.
Why is he wearing that?
Yeah.
Also, I think I need to point something out as well. This is also another place where Diablo wins and Statham loses.
Right.
We get exactly 2 obligatory character actor cameos in this.
Yes.
We get Michael Pena, and we get 3 because I'm going to count Jason Fleming. We get Pena, we get Fleming, and we get Stranger Things dude, David Harbour. So we get Fleming, Harbour, and Pena, none of whom cost more than a few thousand. You know what I mean?
Yes, right.
Like for a day's work or whatever they were doing, right? It's not a big thing. It is noticeable, however, that obviously Statham, because he's been doing these big franchise movies, has started to ask for more and more money.
Yeah.
Right. So when it used to be a $40 million budget and Statham was making 8 a movie or whatever, then you had a lot more budget to play with. What I'm noticing here is, outside of Pena, Harbour, and Fleming, all the bad guys, which would normally be reserved for like at least a well-known actor to play the bad guy, or at least a character actor or something, or maybe another martial artist or something to like play the bad guy, we just get fucking no name. Well, and most of this was filmed in England as well, and that's abundantly obvious because everyone's accent is fucking terrible. Like no one, there's a few Americans and Hispanics during the Chicago sequence that was filmed in Chicago, but the rest of the movie, and it's why they're weird ghouls hanging out in a mansion, because they're like, well, we're in England, we can't make anything look like a New York high rise. So how about, I don't know, a brick mansion in the woods? That's a bit like American, isn't it? No, not at all. But all right, we'll just go with it. But that's the thing. Like all these guys were either no-name Middle Eastern, no-name Eastern European actors that they shipped in, or no-name British actors that they chose. But the guy who plays the supposedly big bad, the like long blonde-haired Russian goatee bearded guy, is seen in a major sequence in this movie wearing a pink blouse and a big, ludicrously oversized, tall pink hat.
Yeah.
And he's standing there in a booth trying to look cool, like fucking Sean Penn in Carlito's Way, when actually he looks like fucking... he just looks like a fucking fool. He looks like a British TV children's show presenter from 1968 called Whizzle Me Tibbins. It's what he looks like.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was talking with Ty from Co-op's Reviews about this movie because he'd seen it, and he made a point that these wasted character actors, Pena, Harbour, whatever. He's like, Pena should have been the secret baddie the whole time. Like he should have been the one who was like doing all this stuff behind the scenes, and then it's revealed like, oh, Pena was the baddie, like in the last 20 minutes, and give him a little bit more robust a part. But they don't do any twists. There's like no real twists at all in this movie. I don't think that there's anything plot wise that like you're like, oh, that's the baddie.
Yes, except that they've done the Cardinals. Like what they've done is they've un-PM'd a PM thing, right? So a PM thing would be, well, because we've got to get action in every 6 or 7 minutes, he can't just like go to a place and immediately see the guy who stole the guy's daughter and then just like get him and run away. We have to have like a secondary plot in there, right? So they'll PM would normally figure out yet another kind of very simplistic B plot. that sort of a side quest that our hero has to go on in order to then come back around and kill the big bad guy. It's a little similar thing happens in Black Creek a little bit, like where they have to find a way to like elongate the movie because Richard Norton's right there. Everyone says to her, Richard Norton killed your brother. Like, why would she waste any time? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they have to figure out a way. Well, this movie had to figure out a way to have like a second act because otherwise if he's this good, right, he's going to find the guy in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And because he's a big, flouncy, pink blouse, top hat wearing, fucking lank haired wanker from probably God knows where, probably from, Luton or somewhere in England or Hull or something, or wherever he's from. Statham's going to eat him on toast and then get on with it. So they have to like do a second act. And what's Stallone and Air and who's the third guy who did it? Stallone, Air, and Chuck Dixon, who also wrote. What else has Chuck Dixon written?
Chuck Dixon.
Oh, he wrote Harley Quinn,
the
TV series. He wrote. He's written a bunch of like Batman Lego shit. Is what he's done.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad they got this guy who's written Batman Lego to write fucking this movie. This possibly explains why everyone sat around in big glowy red rooms, though, looking all, moody. But yeah, I don't know why they un-PM'd it. All they needed to do was be like, and by the way, the Russian mob have a sideline dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And in order to win the confidence of the main bad guy before he killed him, Statham's going to go undercover as a drug dealer or whatever it is. But secretly what he's going to do is throw the drugs away and tell the kids to drink their milk and, be better people or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a simple second. Instead, it's like, well, we're going to give you a phone and you've got to go to here. And then the drugs are going to be taped under your seat. And then there's going to be this other guy and we're not with the mob. And then we're going to fuck up. And then there's going to be two guys in ridiculous tracksuits wearing furry hats. And you're going to be like, who the fuck are these guys? You know what I mean? And they un-PM'd it. They fucked it. Is what they took a PM idea and they fucked it.
Yeah, because this could be an amazing PM movie. So in the 90s, of course, trafficking was not the thing that we have now. I don't know what for PM, what would have happened in PM, right? Is that Statham's kids would have been killed. And
they just flat out fucking kill the grandfather.
Yeah.
And they would kill the girl he's after as well, because after she bit the cheek off the little dwarf, he looks like the little guy looks like if David Lynch put Steven Seagal in Twin Peaks.
Yes.
That's what he looks like.
That's it. What it is. Yes. But PM would have been like, no, and they would have had Robert Miano would have been playing a character with a Russian accent at some point. Like that's, you know. Yeah, but the thing is, it would all taken place in California. It would all been shot in California, and all would have looked beautiful. And it wouldn't have been Statham, right? It would have been Gary Daniels, and he would have. It would be up there with the 3 Rs, right? It would have been like one of the greatest PM movies ever made.
Right, and I do believe you could, even with all the hokey, jingoistic crap that's in the movie, I do think that you could take this film and make a really good 90-minute movie.
Yeah,
I think there is a really good 90-minute movie lurking in there.
Yes.
And I think it my problem with it is that it falls prey to its worst demons more than it manages to pull a rabbit out of a hat, right? So there are definite, like, the one thing we cannot deny about this movie is that the back of the truck fight between the three of them is legitimately like a great set piece. It's like a Raid-esque or a John Wick-esque set piece, and it was really nice to see Statham doing shit like that again.
I liked that sequence. I mean, I liked it when he goes to the bartender's house and ends up, having the shootout with him and the drug dealers that are coming there. Yeah. I thought that was really good. I thought the end was good. I thought the fight with the guys in the Game of Thrones backroom thing was good. It's like the action was good enough. And like you said, for a 90-minute movie, these tropes that I'm talking about here that are all kind of tired and worn or whatever, I think they're okay in a 90-minute movie. I think you can manage them if the action's there, which the action quotient for a 90-minute movie, the action quotient actually would have been pretty robust in this film. And so, in that sense, and again, I think there are people that would watch. I think there are people that could watch this movie and not be as, like I don't know, because now you're mentioning seeing it now in a second time through it and not enjoying it. So I might be wrong about that. I might be, because I was thinking for myself, like, like the things might bother me a lot, but other people might be able to watch and say, but I don't know. I think there is a sense of when these movies get long like this, and I don't think there's an earnestness in the making of this movie either. I think this is not like some kind of passion project or something where it's like really got the story I want to tell, and that's why the movie's that long. There's a cynicism in Stallone's writing and in the writing in this movie where it's just like, let's just throw all these pieces together. Like, I'm just going to grab this piece from over the top about the father-in-law. I'm going to throw that in there, and I'm going to throw these little bits of things from other movies that, other things, and just put them all together and say, there's my movie. I think if you're going to do that, do it in 90 minutes. Like, and I'm a little bit I'm better with it if you're going to do it in 90 minutes and have some good action like they had in this movie.
Yeah, put a couple of power ballads in it. Have someone arm wrestle on the cab of a truck, beat up Robert Loggia, and you've got yourself a winner. Yes. No, I think the big problem here is that clearly Statham can't. I don't think Statham can head a blockbuster in the way that The Rock can, or in the way that, on his own, I mean. And when you look at something like Hobbs and Shaw, they had to surround even The Rock and Statham with, Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart and a bunch of like cameos, right? Idris Elba is the bad guy. Like that, that was stacked, that was like a stacked cast. Similarly, Statham's box office is always like, once you scrap the Fast and Furious franchise and what's the other big franchise that he was in? Expendables. Once you get once you get the Expendables and Fast and Furious off his box office, he himself, when he releases a Hummingbird or a Safe or a Killer Elite or whatever, those movies, they make their money back on streaming or on Blu-ray, but they're not, even across the world, they don't make a lot of money. Like, his movies are famous for costing 40 and grossing 25, and then scraping back the rest on. But he gets his credit within Hollywood because he's in all these big franchises, and that's kind of buoyed his market value, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that could be a place. I mean, that's the thing is, like, you wonder, like for example, is, with these Marvel movies where, like, Kevin Feige, he's got, all of these Marvel properties have come back to Marvel recently. And, Statham is someone who could play some of these kind of bigger name characters that haven't been really adapted yet. Maybe not bigger name, but like kind of like supporting.
He won't, though, because he's gone on the record of being like, I am running around wearing tights.
But that's the thing.
Like, he's already gone on the record.
Everybody says that, right? Everybody's like, I'm not doing Marvel movies. But when they plop down the big contract with the zeros behind it, suddenly everybody does Marvel movies. I mean, granted, you get people like Harrison Ford, where Harrison Ford's like, yeah, I heard from my friends that these movies are fun, so that's why I'm doing them. But I mean, someone like a Steven Dorff, who did the first Blade movie, he's like, I would never do these Marvel movies. Like, dude, if Kevin Feige came up to you with a script and said, like, listen, I want you to be the next Star-Lord, he'd be like,
I love that Dorff has an opinion on this. No one's cared about Steven Dorff for 25 years. But all of a sudden, Dorff's like, well, I would never do a Marvel movie. Oh, you've suddenly got some integrity, have you, Dorff?
Yeah. I mean,
where was that line?
Yeah. I mean, I think if people like if Tony Leung can do, Shang-Chi, like Tony Leung is like as far as actors go, like modern, actors right now, he's up there. He's like your De Niro level actor, from Hong Kong. I mean, he's like one of the best to do it. And the fact that they got him for Shang-Chi, it's like at that point, everybody should be like, okay, I'll do if Tony Leung can do a Marvel movie, I'll do a Marvel movie.
Stallone did a cameo in fucking Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Stallone is in the Marvel universe.
Right. And
so
Yeah. Michelle Yeoh did both Guardians of the Galaxy and then Shang-Chi. She did too, it's like, actors at that level. Glenn Close has been in a Marvel movie. So it's like,
right. Michelle Pfeiffer's in a Marvel movie. Michael Douglas is in a, like, shut up, everybody.
Right, yes.
But Steven Dorff is like, no, but I've checked my integrity. And
exactly.
I would. Are they calling you? Is Feige calling you going, come on, Dorff. Come on, I'll give you 10 more million. And Dorff is there like, no, I said publicly I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Do you think Feige is banging down door stores.
Listen, Feige, we want you to be the next Wolverine, because actually Wolverine is short in real life and in the comics. Yeah. We think you're going to be the next best Wolverine. And he's like, no, sorry, I can't do it. I'm
It's also like, wasn't Corey Feldman saying something on a chat show lately where he was asked to be, oh no, they really wanted him for like I don't know, it was a Marvel movie or something. It was a big movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they really wanted me for this, he said. I forget what it was. But politics then came into play and blah blah blah. Like, Feld, listen, I love you, man, but no one's really wanted you for anything in 30 years.
Yeah.
And listen, I love you and I wish you all the very best. I genuinely do. Yeah. And I know that what Hollywood did to you was atrocious. Yeah. But again, no one's come asking. I think he said, was it Star Wars? Was he like, oh, they wanted...
Oh, for like the new Star Wars? Not like Adam Driver's character, like something like...
Can you imagine like Feldog in Star Wars?
Oh,
he's just doing all this business on a fucking hoverboard, and he's just like spinning around in a black hood doing some Michael Jackson shit. That would be fucking hilarious. He's like, I'll be in Star Wars, but you have to play one of my fucking god awful songs for the end credits. He's like, I wanted to have some input into my character, but then they said, Feldog, you have to go away. And I'm like, nobody wanted you in the first place, Feld. You're living in a dream.
It's like this is the thing. If Feldog really did that, right? Like if Star Wars came to him and said, we've got a role for you in this movie, and he was like, I want some input into my character, and they were like, dude, Feldog, if they're coming to you with something like this, you take that and run. Like,
take the money and run, buddy.
I can't think of a similar scenario, but it was, I don't know. But I think now
it's as dumb as, but like, this is why I have utmost respect for Bronson Pinchot, and you're going to be like, where's he going with he's whipping Bronson Pinchot out. Where's Cross going with Bronson Pinchot? Well, I'll explain why I'm going. Bronson Pinchot knows full well that they could make a Beverly Hills Cop film without him.
Right.
However, it would not be the same as a Beverly Hills Cop film with him. So therefore, the tightrope that a Pinchot has to walk is knowing full well that they want him,
right,
but that he's not worth enough,
right, that
they won't get rid of him if he's like, could you add a couple of zeros onto the end of that, please, Mr. Murphy? And so Pinchot is that guy, and you need to be a Pinchot. You need to realize that yes, you're expendable, though you're ultimately expendable, but you have this much leverage between. How much do we need the scene where he says Axel Foley as Axwell Foley? Like, how much do we need that funny bit?
Right.
Versus how much money we have in the coffers. No, but my only point to bring it up with the Statham thing is that it's very apparent from the A Working Man thing that, first of all, I don't know if Pena and Harbour are on the set for more than half a day, I'd be surprised. Right. But let's say they got a day each, right?
Yeah.
It's very apparent to me that Statham is pricing himself out of these kind of movies.
Yeah.
Because he probably took 20 from this movie. Like, probably 20 million of the budget of this movie was on Statham.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're left with one scene with Jason Fleming, which is the best scene in the movie, by the way. To see Fleming and Statham kind of have a lock stock reunion off.
Yes.
Between their in their scene.
Yeah.
Like Statham suddenly started to be a watchable actor in that scene.
Yeah.
Like up until then he's just doing his stoic mumbling, you ain't seen nothing, right? That guy.
Yeah, right.
And then in the Fleming scene, suddenly he's like fucking they're having a batonage, back and forth. Is batonage the right word?
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They've got like a good rapport going.
Right.
So you're like great, that's worth Fleming's, $50,000 or whatever they paid Fleming. You know what I mean?
Right.
50 grand in a box of cereal or something, whatever they gave Fleming. And then, you get Pena and Harbour. But it was completely dumb in any other movie that could afford to have Harbour. And again, Harbour's Marvel guy and Stranger Things.
What's in Pena, too?
Right, Harbour might be, but Harbour's like
Harbour's an actual, exactly.
Harbour's like I'm just saying that between Stranger Things and Marvel, maybe Harbor's worth more money than I'm aware of. Like maybe Harbor took a couple of mil just to
he might
do
have.
his to do his sequence in this
half
movie.
a mil for this. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that in any other movie that could afford it, Harbor would go on the final raid with Statham and die during the final raid. You know what I mean? Even though it was a cause he didn't really believe in the first place.
Yeah.
He wanted to, like in Executive Target with Michael Madsen and then the sleazy bald guy who wears a lot of Hawaiian shirts who's trying to fuck a doll or whatever in the middle of the movie, who also co-wrote it, I believe. That guy is going to show up to fight the bad guy in the end and then cark it halfway through, saving the hero's life. That's what happens. But this movie literally goes, we can't afford Harbor for more than half a day.
No, so put some
we
sunglasses on.
We can barely
and
afford fucking Statham.
Right, just put some sunglasses on him, make him blind. That's it. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Keep him in one location. Yeah.
Wait, was he meant to be blind?
He was blind. Yeah, his character was blind. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even though he was shooting a bow and arrow, he was blind.
I missed that.
Well, because he's shooting a bow and arrow, too. That's supposed to be part of the thing,
What is he, Hawkeye or fucking Daredevil or something?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no. To your point, yeah, it's like they normally. You're right. Those two would have been going in together. It would have been one of those things where like there's like that scene where Statham tries to talk him out of it, and he just won't listen. Yeah.
Do you know who should have directed this? Luc Besson should have directed this.
Yeah.
If Luc Besson had directed this would be like a fantastic film. Because Besson would keep all the mad, esoteric Game of Thrones with a bike exhaust chair and fucking horn helmets and mad costume parties in the woods. He would have kept all that. But he would have filled it with industrial drum and bass.
Yes.
Every other person would have been wall-to-wall tattoos, piercings, mohawks, everything like that.
Right.
Everyone would slink around in like black in a very kind of Parisian sort of way.
Right.
And then Statham would just be in the midst of it, you know what I mean? And there would be lots of like lens flare and neon lights, and it would be great. Air tries to do that, but Air is like a poor man's Luc Besson. He's like a poor man's guy. Air is like a poor man's Guy Ritchie fucked a very poor man's Luc Besson and produced an incredibly poor man's David Ayer. Yeah. That's what he's like. And he wants to play with Rodriguez, and again, I think we're going to see this in some action movies. I think some of the set dressing we have here, and even some of the tattoo, because there are a few tattoo piercing mohawks hanging around in the movie. I think we're seeing that because it's the John Wickification of action. Yeah. Where it works in John Wick because they built the world out slowly over 4 movies, and they've established that there are the hipster waistcoat, tight pant, beardy assassins, and then there are the like Suicide Girl hotline chicks, right? And then there are the, they've established all these sort of like random gangs that are all dressed in wacky outfits or whatever, and they come after. They've established that, and they've built this world up. This movie does nothing to build a world at all. This movie just goes, this is a world in which there are gray, normal construction sites in Chicago and mad neon biker werewolf bars in the woods that are populated by enormous 7-foot guys who wouldn't look out of place in a Twilight sequel with their shirt off, howling at a fake moon. This movie wants both those things to exist, and Air doesn't have the juggling power to make that work.
No, and I think the dividing line between having fun with it and saying like it's this fun, quirky, like almost like enjoyable movie in spite of itself, and a clunker is the runtime. That's like yes, you're so right. Yeah. And again, you're completely right. I would agree. This movie comes so close to being that first thing you said. I can like it despite of itself. Yeah. And then the runtime just kicks you in the teeth. Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because the next movie we're going to talk about also has a long runtime. But it's interesting. I think when you're doing like kind of an earnest, like passion project, or you're an indie filmmaker or something like that, I would say for indie filmmakers out there, you probably want to think about the runtime a little bit. But at least if this is the movie you want to make, and this is the story you want to tell, then do it. But this is not, Working Man has no story to tell. It has no. There's no.
Working Man is Mad Libs the movie.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it just
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like, well, give us an international crime.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. People trafficking. All right. Give us people don't like Russian mob. All right, great. Give us something else. People are randomly against drugs they don't understand. Okay, great. Put that in there. And well, we're having to film it in England, so give us something that they might do in England that looks like a mad costume party in a mansion in the woods. Fantastic. Right. And then what is one of the biggest selling TV shows of all time? Game of Thrones. Right. We better whip in a Game of Thrones reference, even though that was about 8 years ago now. Right. And one other thing. Oh yes, make one of the villains a guy who sachets around in a dressing gown or robe, smoking a cigarette out of a cigarette holder with a tight ponytail and a small goatee and a big, wide Twin Peaks dwarf head. And then he's going to walk around, and when asked why this woman, out of all of the women, why did he want this woman? He's just going to nonchalantly go, she reminded me of a painting in my brother's house. And I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah.
So the whole reason she was kidnapped, the whole point of the movie, right, is because this one little weird creep who looks like someone put Steven Seagal in a meat press for 10 days, and this is how he came out. He just saw a painting in his brother's house and went, that one.
Yes.
It's just so lazy. So lazy.
Right, because it's
Mad Libs the movie.
Again, it's this whole thing with not understanding how trafficking works, right? That and people who investigate actual trafficking say that these kinds of movies don't do them any favors, right? It just makes the whole thing more convoluted. But the number one thing about trafficking, like the number one key to this, is taking people who aren't going to go to the police, right? So it's either like, young women whose parents are drug addicted, or they're at a party or something and maybe they get drugged and they end up in another state and they end up transported back home, and that's the end of it. It's situations like that. It's not some random person at a bar who you don't know who they are, right? You have no idea what their background is. So you don't know if they're rich and they, that the person you're kidnapping is going to get the whole weight of the police force to come down on you, that your whole criminal empire could go down, all that kind of stuff. It's not this sort of randomized thing of like, oh, well, this rich guy said she looks like a painting, so we're going to kidnap her, right? Like, that's not how that works. Like, nobody's doing that. But it's like these
kidnappers in movies are the dumbest.
Right.
It's the same goes for Taken.
Right.
It's because the moment he's like, I'm an ex-special forces guy and I am coming to France and I will kill you. Right. You just be like, this is way too much trouble, more trouble than it's worth. Yeah. Like, just give her back. Like, I'll steal someone else's kid who won't have a fucking SAS father and he'll be absolutely fine. But the same thing happens in this movie. You're completely correct. Like, just the moment they're like, we've sent Statham after him and he's fucking killed one of our head Russian mob guys, give her back. Like, it's not worth it.
Yes. It's like the if you've got a backyard, like I live in the city, but if you have a backyard and there's a bear and the bear starts rummaging through your backyard, you don't go out to tell the bear like, hey, bear, stop. Don't you kind of leave the bear there. And then the next time you say, okay, why did the bear come into my backyard? Oh, it was because we left our trash cans out here. Or whatever the reason is that got the bear to go there. You change that. You don't go out and fight the bear or say like, oh, I'm going to keep throwing food out to the bear, or whatever.
Matt, I'm going to be very clear. I know you're a city slicker and I'm a country dweller, but don't fight the bear, Matt. Don't do that. No,
well, I used to live in Maine. We never actually had a bear in our backyard.
No, I know.
Other animals. But it is like this idea that like
never fight the bear. That's the key thing.
And Statham here is the bear. Let the bear tear your place apart. Let him tear everything apart. Get whatever he wants. Give him whatever he wants. And get him out of there. That's it. But again, these, I guess at the very end of the movie, right, the Russian mob is like, hey, he did what he needed to do, leave him alone. And, like somebody at the very top decides, okay, yes, we've had enough Statham, but
yeah, no. And I think you're right. It is a very cynical Mad Libs script. It is and I've got to totally rethink. I clearly watched a completely different movie the other night when I first watched this movie. I was just vibing with it. I think I just vibed with it, and I was just like, "Oh, I like that it looks like a
because you know what
CW show from 15 years ago."
The thing that happens sometimes is like I'll watch like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, for example, or like Thor Ragnarok. Going back to these comic book movies, but I'll watch them and be like, I don't really like this. Like, why is this movie? Like, why does everybody like this movie? This doesn't make any sense. And then like the last 20 minutes or so. Sometimes you watch that last 20 minutes and you're like, oh, okay, everything just came together. I really like this now. It's such a good last 20 minutes that I'll give the whole film, 3.5 or 4 stars or whatever.
Which is, I think, what this movie did. I think the last 20 minutes of this movie is great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And I think it was the way you did it where you kind of went back and started looking at pieces. You're like, yeah, I don't know about those. I mean, the other thing, too, is I know depending on the kind of state you're in when you're watching the movie, too, if you're happier, you're kind of feeling, I remember watching Finding Nemo. Was that the
yes
cartoon? We're watching that with some people one time, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't that bad. This isn't, this is interesting." Then I went to watch it again, and I was like, "No, this isn't. I'm too old to watch this. Like, I'm an adult. This is not a good movie."
We're literally got to the point of the podcast where it's like angry old man bothered by Pixar movies.
Right.
Which, by the way, I love you for it, because not many will speak out against Pixar, but when someone does, I'm there for it. I'm there for the speaking out against Pixar.
It's not that I dislike Pixar. It's more that I'm an adult, and this idea that people make Pixar movies for adults, I think is
right. But I agree with you. Just don't come after my Muppets, because I still love my Muppets.
Well, the Muppets were a different thing. The Muppets they did make for adults, yes. So yeah.
The Muppets made by and for adults. Mm-hmm. Kids don't know what's going on.
Right.
They don't. So yeah, Working Man, I had initially given it a 4 because I think I was vibing with its more insane impulses. I'm more inclined now, having watched it again, to kind of come more to what you're talking about, which is this is so close to a movie that you could love despite itself, but the runtime is just too long. And I think it was when I went back and I was watching it and I realized that really the fight in the back of the biker bar in the red neon and all that happens at about the 43-minute mark. That's entirely too long for me to care about anything before Statham beats some people up. You know what I mean? And in the middle of that, you get Jason Fleming's sequence, which is really good. Yeah. But that almost convinces you that you've seen more action than you've actually seen. Yeah. You know what I mean? That bothered me. That was the first thing that broke the PM rules. Yeah. And then you have them un-PMing the second storyline with this whole drug mule, fake phone, the police are involved. Fuck it. I don't understand who any of the people are. Yeah. And then you've got them suddenly wheeling in the girl in a suitcase to meet, weird pancake looking Steven Seagal dwarf. And you're like, what is this now? And then she's, all of it. Yeah. It's too much. They flooded the pudding, and I've got no time for it. However, I will still prefer it and still watch it again over The Beekeeper, which is, and I know everyone loves The Beekeeper and everyone hated this film. Well, I'm going on record as saying you're wrong. The Beekeeper is unmitigated bilge and needs to be tossed out. It's so fucking awful. And they're doing a Beekeeper too. Yeah. But I will say this for The Beekeeper. You had Jeremy Irons, right? You had someone you could hate the moment they came on screen. Yeah. And I didn't have that in this movie. Yeah. I mean, I hated everyone in this movie. So
yes. And I should say, as a quick aside, on my recent podcast that I did with Scott Murphy, where we talked about Into the Sun, I mentioned you're talking about that, about Jeremy Irons looking like John Majors, and it
looks like John Majors' spitting image puppet,
right? And we ended up going on this huge tangent about like 80s and 90s politics in the UK and US, which I kept it in. I kept the whole thing in. So
I love that. I will listen to it. Yeah. And live on the podcast as we speak, I just dropped my Letterboxd rating of A Working Man down from 4 out of 5 to 3 out of 5. Yeah. So that's. And I'm gonna end this bit of the show before we go into Black Creek and then wrap it up with my review of A Working Man from Letterboxd, which I'm going to review this movie by simply copying and pasting the text that I sent to my friends while watching it. So it says, "Now I'm watching A Working Man. Jesus Christ. It is so fucking bad, it's hilarious. Stallone loves waterboarding. It's like in 4 of his movies. Stallone is such a fan of waterboarding. Anytime he wants to do anything hideous to someone, he waterboards them. This movie is either one notch below or one notch above parody. It's certainly not meant to be taken seriously. It's like someone gave someone $50 million to make Samurai Cop. It's like the director of Samurai Cop being given $50 million to try and make a bad Guy Ritchie movie via Hack Snyder. This film is like The Beekeeper if The Beekeeper was oiled up and spunked over by an engorged and out-of-touch Sylvester Stallone. This movie plays like the paranoid ramblings of a confused grandfather after watching 20 minutes of CNN. Just when I think it can't get any more fucking bizarre, it suddenly turns into Roadhouse, with Statham showing up to a neon-lit, Dusk Till Dawn style biker bar to the soundtrack playing Wagon Wheel. It looks like it was directed by someone who made Budweiser commercials in the 90s. It's so weird because I can tell by the accents and some of the locations that vast portions of this were filmed in England. So I'm always forgetting it's meant to be in Chicago and thinking things like there'd never be a Game of Thrones meets Roadhouse meets Motley Crue video seat out the back of a bar in England. This movie is so stupid. And that's the other thing, is this movie was so dumb, I kept forgetting it was meant to be in America.
Right.
I kept forgetting it was meant to be just outside Chicago because I kept looking at it and going, that's England. Oh, there's England. Oh, look, more England. Right. But actually, this movie transcends stupid. There's literally a non-ironic neon sign in this bar that simply says Schlitz on tap, which is kind of like having a Pabst Blue Ribbon sign, but from like 15 years ago. Because now it would be Schlitz or Genesee is like the kind of nod, nod, wink, wink hipster beer. Pabst was like 15 years ago, right? Okay, and out the back of this Roadhouse is a guy who sits on a sort of leatherette Game of Thrones chair, but built out of bike exhausts and metal skulls. It looks like Judas Priest ejaculated in here. This movie's getting madder by the second. Okay, but like this film just totally had like totes the most exciting and well-staged action sequence Statham has done since The Transporter. That shit was off the chain. I think that was the back of the truck fight sequence.
Right, yeah, which is good, yeah.
Yeah, I said this movie is so 1995, it's beautiful in a way I didn't know I needed. This movie has so many PM moves, it's quite glorious. I was so wrong about this movie. This movie is amazing. This is where it flipped for me when I was watching it the first time. Right. It's like Tim Burton and Robert Rodriguez made an HBO Max version of an early 2000 CW show. With Grindhouse meets PM entertainment shenanigans and Statham being legitimately good. I was high or some shit. This is ridiculous. I mean, I am buying because this is not the case. I'm buying the 4K as soon as I have a little spare cash because it starts off and you think, more old man, paranoid, slightly racist nonsense like The Beekeeper, where all villains are going to be shiny suited young pricks that old people are intimidated by. But then somewhere after the first act, it goes more and more into a Robert Rodriguez Grindhouse ludicrous vibe, and the action scenes start to be the best of Statham. Some crank stuff, some transporter stuff, some expendable stuff. I mean, it's brilliant. Wow, I really like this movie. Shit. You know, like how John Wick 2 and 3 started layering on more and more hipster man bun, tattooed goons, and neon lights, and the movies became more and more unrealistic? Well, that's all of this, but in 1 2-hour movie with Statham kicking ass and taking names almost continuously. It's not continuously. Why did I think it was continuously? I also said, and there's no random named bad guy like Jeremy Irons prancing around and slithering his words about. All the bad guys in this are just random no-names. There's one amazing scene between Statham and Jason Fleming, which is worth watching just to see Statham dial up his performance to match Fleming's. And David Harbour and Michael Pena are in there, but they are the worst two things in it. Their acting is embarrassing. So glad they didn't have more screen time. That's true, though. Yeah. Michael Pena trying to be upset about his daughter was painful to watch.
Yes.
Painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was high watching it, which definitely heightened the madness and confusion of it all. But I liked it a lot more than The Beekeeper, which I rewatched lately and thought was just awful. So there are some things in there that I still think of, but obviously, based on my review on the podcast now, there are also things that I have done a complete 180.
But I think it is. I think it's all of those things that you talk about when the movie turns all of those things I think are good. I think it's just the beginning is so long. It doesn't, and to be fair, I think when the movie turns, there's still more of that stuff in there as well that's sort of bogging it down. It's as if it's like you take something really good and I don't know, like a pizza, right? You have like this really nice pizza, and then you just load it up with stuff that doesn't go on a pizza, and it's
like artichoke. Stop putting fucking artichoke on fucking pizza.
Or like street corn, Mexican street corn on the pizza or whatever. Like you're just putting all this stuff on, but it's like artichoke plus Mexican street corn plus like I don't know, like pineapple and stuff.
And I'm sorry, white pies can fuck off.
Yes,
these white pies with artichoke and fucking a drizzle of aioli or some wank on it.
Right,
fuck off.
That's what and it's like PM would have looked at the movie and said, I'm just going to make a straight up cheese pizza or straight up pepperoni pizza. I'm just going to do it.
Yes.
And to be fair, even if it's PM and you got to make like vegan pepperoni on the pizza, they knew how to make like a vegan pepperoni pizza taste like a real pepperoni pizza. You know what I mean? It's like, and it was like, and that's, I think more of these kinds of movies, they should be looking to PM's stuff to see how they got it right.
David Ayer, on the other hand, would take a cheese and tomato pizza and, he would strip the tomato off it, put artichokes on it, drizzle some like hot oil or some shit. Like, oh, we've taken olive oil, but we've put a bunch of chilies in it, and then we've like heated up and spread it all over the pizza. And so we're just going to call it a fucking artichoke and oil white pizza. And you're like, it's still a pizza. And at a push, drunk after a night at the pub, if I found it in the fridge, I might be like, fuck it, heat it up, pour a bit of marinara sauce on it and eat it. That might be a thing I would do if drunk and needing post-pub pizza. But put this on as primo pizza. No, I'm going back to Executive Target or Rage or one of those great PM Entertainment movies that you can hear us talking about on the PM Entertainment podcast. Now out right now. And by the time you listen to this, the Michael Wirth interview will be out there. That's a scoop just for you. To be the best, I got an interview with Michael Wirth. So our next episode will have an interview with Michael Wirth himself.
Yeah, I can't wait for
exactly
that
3 p.m. film. So great.
Nice.
No, I'm going to edit it tomorrow. It'll be out hopefully by Thursday or Friday. I don't know. What I keep doing, Matt, and I don't know if you do this, but like what I keep doing is I keep going, oh, I must do this, I must do that, I must do this, I must do that. I must go on and post social. I must go on and write this. I must do this. I must whatever. And then I sit down and go, I don't actually have to do any of this. And like people will get the podcast when they get the podcast, and people will get social media posts when they get social media posts. And like, I don't have to do any of this. I need some mental fucking sanity. And sometimes I just step away. In the last couple of weeks, I've just stepped away. That is what it is.
Yeah.
And people can, it's summertime. I'm having a life. Like, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't have enough listeners to care about it. So, I have a good amount of them, but not enough to really care. So, saying all that, go watch Diablo instead, because what Diablo knows to do is Diablo knows to keep it at 90 minutes. Yeah. It knows to have a fucking awesome bad guy, and it knows to keep the action going from frame one all the way to the end, with Adkins doing his best shit since Ninja 2, Shadow of a Tear, under the watchful guise of Isaac Florentine, who worked with Michael Wirth on a movie, and we actually talked about Isaac Florentine.
Oh, nice. Oh, I can't wait to hear that, too.
All right, on to Black Creek. Black Creek is Cynthia Rothrock, the Lady Dragon herself. It is her long desired passion project that she wrote, produced, cast, did the costuming for, apparently.
Right.
And co-wrote. Did I say co-wrote?
Yes, yeah.
And stars in. This is Cynthia Rothrock to the power of Rothrock. Yeah. This is everything she wanted to do. She had her hand in absolutely everything. I'm surprised she probably even made the sandwiches for the catering. She was so involved in this in every single level. And if you follow Cynthia Rothrock on social, you will know that Cynthia Rothrock does not stop moving for 5 minutes.
No.
The woman is a machine.
Yes.
She's either flying somewhere, traveling somewhere, accepting an award somewhere, setting up a new martial arts museum somewhere. going in doing martial arts demos and lessons somewhere, flying halfway around the world to be 3 scenes in some movie. She never, ever, ever stops. I often wonder who looks after her dogs. But she's always off scuba diving. She's scuba diving, or she's hang gliding, or she's mountain climbing, or she's whatever. She never stops.
Yeah.
So this movie, she puts blood, sweat, tears, gumption, heart, soul, and sheer balls into this film. And it is Black Creek. It is she plays the daughter of a sheriff who is murdered by evil Richard Norton, who is trying to gobble up land in the town of Black Creek, and who is intimidating everybody into signing over their deeds for their property so that he can own it and, I don't know, turn it into Western-style shopping malls. I have no idea. But that's what he's doing. He might have even said what he's doing, but I don't remember. Also, at the same time, in the middle of Black Creek, they are, of course, got a makeshift fight pen where people are fighting and betting on fights. So that's all going on as well. And then the usual hurring and farming and other stuff that would happen in the Wild West. There's always hers and farmers in the Wild West, as well as obviously fancy ladies and casino owners. Yeah. So all this is going on in the town of Black Creek. She comes home, having been out in the wilderness doing her thing, to find that her father has been murdered and a bunch of the rest of her family have been either killed or abused by this Richard Norton person. And she is having none of it. And so starts a Western revenge tale as old as time, but as fresh as a daisy, with our lady dragon Rothrock at the lead and at the helm, quite literally, and all of the time. Notable for obviously its cast. We get a cast of Rothrock regulars. Obviously, Richard Norton I've mentioned already, but Don Wilson shows up. Keith Cook shows up. Keith Vitale shows up. Benny the Jet Urquidez is in a scene in this movie. All of her friends show up to do a little bit of a favor for Cynthia Rothrock, and why not? They all should do so. Everyone should be supporting this wonderful woman and everything she wants to do. It is also noticeable because we have Mike Mueller, or however you pronounce his last name. Mueller.
Yeah.
Mike Mueller. We have Mike Mueller as the fight director, and of course he is from John Wick, right? Or a bunch of things. Is he John Wick 4 or something?
I think he did John Wick 4. I mean, he was in the 4th Expendables, but he was doing a lot of stuff in Germany. I think he's like 5'3", but he's just like an absolute spitfire. But his fight choreographer wise, he's one of the best out there right now. And so the fact that she got him for this is amazing.
Yeah, he did Last Kumite. He did Retribution with Neeson.
Yeah.
He did John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
He did Matrix Resurrections. Yeah. He did... What other ones some people might know?
Well, he starred in Ultimate Justice, Mark Dacascos movie.
Right, Ultimate Justice, yes. And I thought there was like one other one, like an early one. Yeah. But anyway, fantastic guy, German guy. So she manages to bag him, which is fantastic. Yeah. And who else do we have that's of any note in this?
I was trying to think.
I mean, Patrick Kilpatrick.
Yeah, as the sheriff.
He's a sheriff, but he's a B actor of some note, and has been for many years. He has 154 credits.
Yeah, normally he would be the baddie in a movie like this, but
right.
I mean, Norton is just it's one of his last performances, but it is an absolute amazing performance that he gives here.
Oh, Norton and Cynthia Rothrock are the reasons to watch this movie. I mean, while it's lovely to see a lot of the other guys, and I did think that Keith Cook was really good in his role. I thought he was a really good actor for his piece. It's Cynthia and Richard, like they are the two pegs that pin the curling lino of this movie. They are the two pegs that pin that back down to the ground and give us enough of a kitchen floor to dance on. I don't know where I was going with that, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I know exactly what you mean, because it is, I mean, one of the things I said about Norton when he passed, when I reviewed Not Another Mistake, is it seems like Norton had this uncanny ability to know what a movie needed from him and how to deliver it as well as possible. And I think it comes in really well here, where it's like, okay, this is Cynthia's movie. I want to be the best I can for this movie. So I'm going to play this baddie who is not just like some scenery chewing, Alan Rickman baddie. Cynthia's still going to be the star of this movie. I'm going to make sure she's still the star, but I'm going to be the kind of baddie that people are going to want to see her defeat.
Right.
And like you said, it works so perfectly with her hero, which I think this is her best character since China O'Brien. This is, I really love this character here too. So it's like you said, they're the anchors that or the foundation that this movie's built on. And so then it allows the rest of the movie to kind of just flourish, I think.
Yeah, and again, to its strengths, what Cynthia has clearly paid a lot of attention to, and in fact said as much when I spoke to her recently, is the lighting, the setting, the costumes. Like, it looks. Now, I'm not going to say the camera work is good because I have a problem with the camera work, but the lighting, the sets, the costumes, the era is very well done. The decision to do a lot of night shoots so you can have flaming torches and little gas lamps and flickering lights everywhere is a really, really nice touch. And I know it wasn't easy because it was very freezing cold when they filmed this. I think they filmed this in November in the desert, I think. And they do fantastically well with what they've got. And with a small budget, they try and make it really, really, really look the business. Yeah. So I've got to give it very high marks for its setting, its art direction, if you want to call it that. Its lighting and things like that are fantastic. The other thing I will give it credit for is, I think you're right. It is the best acting we've seen from Cynthia, from Keith Cook, from Richard Norton. I think that they are, again, giving it 35 years of a career knowledge, you know what I mean? And doing their very best with it. I think also when you think of the fact that 90% of the fighters in this movie are over the age of 65, the fight sequences, albeit them a little short, some of them are legitimately great. I think Cynthia worked very hard to get a couple of really great set pieces in here. Especially, I think of the one where she runs in and runs across the bar and is doing her weapon twirling. That whole bar fight, they didn't go for the traditional Western punch-up. They go literally, oh, she's a weapon expert. We're going to have her do some of her forms and weapons, right?
Yeah, and I think, one of the things I think if people were going to bag on this from a budgetary standpoint, they didn't have the budget to do those quick edits that a lot of action movies do now that sort of hide the fact that, it's like how action movies get non-action stars to do martial arts that they're not very good at. You just have the quick edits. This movie didn't have that, so they were trying to speed up the film as a way to compensate. So they kind of speed up sequences. And
there's only a couple of speed ups, though. I think the Benny Urquidez is definitely sped up. Just, he's in his... I think he's only in his early 70s, but he looks like he's in his early 90s. So, give him a break. And I think there's like one quick sequence where Cynthia is sped up.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the rest of it is more or less at real.
It looks good. I think it's just, that from a, when you have the money from that ability to edit quicker, do those quick edits, you can kind of, do those things in a different way. But again, I think there's an earnestness to even like the fight sequences where it's like, hey, these are all practitioners who, they know martial arts. Yes, like you said, they're up in age, so maybe they don't have the ability to do it like they could in the 90s, but they do it well enough that I think, it gives fans enough of what they want to see, I think.
Right. No, it definitely does. And I'll say this, yes, obviously to have an editor who can do, make this the Bourne Ultimatum or whatever. Yes, you're spending more money on an editor like that than the editors they have here. But I think for my take on it as well, is with these guys also being martial artists, and they'll all talk about this, while they have great respect for the training that someone like a Matt Damon might do, or Keanu Reeves or whatever, they all of them talk about the fact that, like, you can make someone look like a better fighter. I think one of the points that she might have done here might be a conscious thing, where she said, no, let's play these fights out a bit. She may have sped them up a little bit to try and, like, oh, actually my idea of letting these play out means that they're not as exciting and I need to give them a little oomph. But in general, I don't see Cynthia wanting to do, oh, now we're going to shoot your foot hitting this guy. Now we're going to shoot your... I think she wanted to shoot it quickly, and shoot it quickly means you have two martial artists get in a ring and you cover it with a handheld floating camera, and you cover it with a camera on a dolly, and then you just cut between the two.
Yeah.
And I, in a way, because I'm a fan of the older movies, in a way, I prefer that decision than trying to make Cynthia look like she's 40 when she's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would hate to have had a stunt woman like subbing for her when she, and suddenly make Cynthia be able to do flips and twists and whatever. Like, no, I like that it's Cynthia. I like that I'm watching her do it, and I like that I'm watching Richard Norton do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things I said in my written review of this was that the thing about this movie that struck me was that, and I also, from listening to the interview where she said to you she'd always wanted to play a Western hero, and so the sense that I got is like, we should have had these movies in the 90s, right? When she wasn't as old. Like this movie that we're watching now should be the callback to those movies from the 90s that she never did, right? And,
this is Black Creek, the reboot. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, we didn't get those movies in the 90s. And they would have been amazing Westerns that she could have done in the 90s.
Yeah, and Black Creek, Black Creekier, Blacker Creek,
right.
And then...
the Blackest Creek, yeah.
The Black... Right. Black Creek 4, the Blackest
Creek, right? Yeah. Exactly. But so we're getting it now, and to your point, I think you're right. Like it's we don't want it to have the quick edits necessarily either. But I think it's fun to see her not only doing the martial arts stuff, but like the gunslinging stuff as well. I think it's
right.
It's a kind of hero that, like, she said she's always wanted to play it, and I get the sense in watching her performance here that she's putting in the performance of somebody who's getting their chance to play a character they've always wanted to play.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. I mean, it oozes Rothrock, and I mean it in the most positive way.
Yeah.
From her performance, from her desire to play the character, from the way that she's made it as authentic as she can possibly make it, to the way that she does a lot of forms and weapons in this movie in a way that she doesn't always get to do in movies she didn't have control over. I think she wanted to get on camera, before she's too old to do it, or before she doesn't want to do it anymore, whatever the reason is. As she gets on camera, her skills and her abilities and her, and gives herself a moment. And I think, I talked about this a little bit with her, but, and I think we may have talked about it a little bit, but, this is someone who had a couple of opportunities to really be a huge star, and was robbed of those on several occasions by unfortunate business dealings or whatever it was, or unfortunate decisions by her representatives and stuff. And so this is someone who, when that happened, went, okay, well, I'll just go back to doing C movies and B movies. Like, I just want to keep making movies. I just want to keep doing martial arts, and she grabs a couple more like little franchises or whatever, like does the not Honor and Glory,
Rage and Honor.
She does the Rage and Honor. She does a couple more Tiger Claws. Like, she keeps doing what she's doing. And after, we don't get her in an Expendables movie, which I think was a massive fucking oversight. It just was a massive fucking oversight. How Ronda Rousey was in a fucking Expendables movie and Cynthia Rothrock wasn't. It's just fucking offensive to me on levels I can't even explain. But So she doesn't
Glenn
get
Powell,
that.
right? Expendables 2 is just all about being insulting. It's just all about being insulted. Glenn Powell, Kellen Lutz. It's just about hurting our sensibilities. Kelsey Grammer. They're just, Stallone just wanted to. It's almost like he was trolling us. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the third movie was.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was the worst, and she should have been in the second one even.
Right? Yes.
Like, is in the second one they bring in that woman who's like the. She's Ian. What's his name?
The bomb expert.
Yeah, she's the bomb expert, and she was like, wasn't she with? Is it Liam Hemsworth? No. Yes, Liam Hemsworth. Yeah. She's with Liam Hemsworth at the beginning, and she's a bomb expert, and I think she comes back in the final action sequence as well. Yeah. But like, I would have had Rothrock in that role, and I would have given her a lot more to do, and I would have had her and Van Damme fight. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I would have done. I mean, I would have just basically killed Stallone's character and made it Rothrock for the next few movies.
Right.
And every time Statham like back talks her or whatever, she just scorpion kicks him in the forehead, and he's like, "All right, miss, yes, all right. Oh no, I understand. I've learned my lesson." Right?
Well, because
we didn't
put
get
her in that one. She was in the Asylum version, and she didn't get much of a part in that either. It was all Zoe Bell, Christiana Loken, Vivica A. Fox of all people.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a disappointment that So even the Asylum version couldn't use her properly, which was too bad.
Right. So we didn't get that, and we didn't get a lot of other things we would have liked to have seen. So we get Black Creek, and the thing is that this is something that she made with her own money. She then crowdsourced some additional money for some additional sequences. I'll tell you what, it's so low budget that she announced Billy Blanks was going to be in it, and then they couldn't afford to put Billy Blanks in it. Yeah. Like once the money came through, that's how low budget it was. They were like, "Sorry, Billy, you've got to go." He'll be back for the sequel, though, folks. Black Creek 2 coming soon. But because it's her, because she's worked as hard as she has, because she's been nothing but decent to the fans and great to the podcasters and people who want to talk to her and stuff like that, and she goes all around the world meeting people all the time. Her patience is inexhaustible rather. Her patience is inexhaustible. I have to give her due on this movie. However, just because I'm giving her due, I want to be very clear. The lighting is really great. The setting is really great. The costume is great. The movie looks awesome. The fighting, I legitimately enjoyed. I really legitimately enjoyed the fighting. The acting between Norton and Rothrock especially, but other people, is awesome. There are some really nice little things where, like, her and Don get a whole montage, which we've waited 45 years for her and Don the Dragon Wilson to have like a montage. So I love that they have like a they get a healing montage and then a training montage. The healing montage is frightful. I mean, it's like a I mean that in a good way. Yeah. It's like a frightening psychedelic trip with a donkey and Don the Dragon Wilson coming at me. And it's hilarious. Yes. It's got great humor. It's got great, it's weird. It's whacked out, whatever. And the last thing I'll say positive about the movie is that it is clear that Cynthia is a lover of the grindhouse gore. Yes. She has heads ripped off, scalps pulled out, innards removed.
People beaten to death with like their brain on a scepter that they're getting beaten with.
Yes, fucking Norton scepter, man. Norton has like a scepter. That's got to have been at least $100 to have that custom scepter made. Unless Norton just had it lying around his palatial Australian apartment. I have no idea. I imagine Norton lived in like some huge Tony Stark like apartment that overlooked Sydney Opera House or something. Yes. I don't know why I imagine that, but
it seems Norton enough, doesn't it? Yeah. I remember one of Rothrock's, because she was doing these series of YouTube videos, she was interviewing him, and he was in Australia and she was in America, and they were talking about some of the Hong Kong movies they did together, which was a lot of fun to hear about the different stories and things like that from them. Of course, I can't remember any of them except that I think, Cynthia Rothrock, I think she tore her ACL, I think, on Millionaires Express and had to do the whole rest of the movie like that. But yeah.
Apparently it didn't, either it grew back or something else grew around it.
Yeah.
and made her knee stronger. And the surgeon was just like, wait, that's not a thing. And she's like, well, it is a thing. My knee is now healed and stronger than ever. And he's like, no, but that's not a thing that happens.
Right.
And she's like, well, it happened.
It happened, right?
With my leg, because
right.
I'm Cynthia Rothrock, mother flubber.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the thing with her is that, you know, when you watch her, especially like her older stuff in particular, but even watching this, like a Black Creek, I mean, she is like a next level athlete. And I don't know, I think, you know, in terms of young women doing martial arts nowadays, I'm sure, you know, I know that there's some, but, you know, of course, there are also other sports that, you know, athletes at that level can get into now. Like, you know, basketball is, you know, professional basketball for women is there. I mean, tennis was always there, but things like basketball, soccer, things like that are kind of a little bit more mainstream now. Whereas, you know, and I wonder, I mean, with her height, I don't know if she would have done basketball, but, you know, the athlete of her caliber, you wonder, like, you know, had she been born, you know, 30 years later, 20 years later, if she would have gone into martial arts the way she did, because what she gives us on a martial arts score and the fact that she's still doing it at this level, I think just, again, testament to the kind of next level athlete that she is. You know,
and you also think about the fact that we have had to live off scraps of Rothrock cameos over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
To get a full-blown Rothrock leading role again.
Yeah.
And it to be this good. I mean, look, we'll get on to what's wrong with the picture and we will talk about that, just to be fair. Yeah. But I want to say, for it to be this good, and it's Cynthia's return to like leading role status, like I personally, after this was done, I thought, she's fucking gone and done it again. She's gone and left everyone else in the fucking dust.
Yes.
Is how I felt when this was done. Even though I take your point on the length of the movie, even though there are some line readings in it that will make you wince, there are some like soap opera level line readings that'll make you wince. And the fact that while at the beginning of the movie, the cameraman is using a dolly and you go, oh, that's cool. They bothered to get a dolly. Most low budget productions don't. They don't even have the camera on a tripod. They just wave the camera around and think that it fucking causes, you know, some kind of mise en scène or something. It doesn't. But, or, you know, it makes everything more exciting if you shake the camera around. No, it doesn't. It just makes everything look like it's happening in a, you know, tidal wave or a thunderstorm or something. It's just stupid. But we, you know, they have a dolly at the beginning of the movie and it allows for these great sweeping shots and it allows for like panning through these locations and things. And at the beginning, you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Then there's a point towards the third act of the movie where every scene starts with a dolly track through a room. Every scene and it starts to get just a little bit repetitive. Yeah. And there are also a couple of like camera mistakes, like literally where you see the camera like shake as if the guy's like dropped it, or you know, it's not, or it's been knocked by an extra or something, that is sort of left in the movie. Obviously, because they probably didn't film a lot of coverage, so it just is what it is. And then there's some editing. There's a lot of fade to blacks, which I just wouldn't fucking do. I would just have cut to the next scene. Like we get it. Like all the fade to blacks are a little much. It's sort of fade at a certain point. The movie becomes fade to black, dolly across the scene. Fade to black, dolly across the scene. And I'm like, guys, we've got to have some more ideas. Again, these are small fry compared to how good the movie is, but those are some things I noticed.
Well, because these are, you know, I think it's important to point them out, just because I think there are people that are going to watch this and be like, what are these guys talking about? What is this movie?
Right.
And I think, like, I mean, the Fade to Blacks, I mean, for me, even watching the movie myself, I was like, every time they do a Fade to Black, I'd be like, next week on Black Creek, you know, and it's like, because to your point, you know, it's not like a novel or a long short story or something like that, where you maybe put in a double space between paragraphs to show you, you know, with a movie, you really only need one or two of those. If you're like, the Fade to Black is when it's like 3 years later or something. You really don't need a Fade to Black if it's like, you know, 10 minutes after, you know, or something like that.
Everyone's gone to bed.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Exactly. If it's the next day, just show a sunrise and get on with it.
Right, you know exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, to your point there, and I think, you know, the length for me, so it's interesting, like the line reading piece of it, where I think the script could have probably used some cleaning up, where there's a few points where it's like, instead of somebody saying something, somebody else saying why, and then that other person explaining further, just do the explaining further. You don't need to go back and forth like that. But the length is an interesting one, because unlike the previous movie we were talking about, where the length hurt it because it's like you're just going over the same tired stuff over and over again. We don't need it to be that long. With this one, it's like, because of the earnestness of it, and it feels like this is this big story that you wanted to tell. It's almost like, okay, if that's the story you want to tell, I'm I'll give it a pass. I mean, yes, I think, if you want your movie to be commercially viable, 90 minutes is probably a little bit better. It's just going to work. But I mean, as I said in my review, I was at a writing group here in Philly where the guy who was running is like, hey, you got to have shorter chapters. And it's like, my Don's House in the Mountains book, it's like, 270 pages and it's 5 chapters. So, but that's just the way the book was written. That's how I wrote it. And so if she feels like this is the movie she needs to make, and it needs to be an hour and 56 minutes, and she didn't want to cut things out because they were important to her, it's the earnestness with which this movie was made, I can accept it.
Yeah, and I would say that unlike something like a Working Man, where I could look at it and go, well, get rid of that scene, get rid of that scene, get rid of that scene, don't need that there, who are these two pillocks, get rid of them. In this movie, there's no one scene I would cut.
Right.
I would simply trim the existing scene. So I would simply be like, you can enter the scene here, you don't need that precursor, and you can end the scene here and whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then there are other things where, like, for example, where she takes what I assume is like an ayahuasca kind of trip or whatever, because Don, just to let everyone know, earlier we were talking about this like PM entertainmentification of like films where you have this like weird B subplot that kind of the hero has to go on in order for it to pad out the running time. Well, this movie has it, she rocks up into town. We already know Richard Norton. She kills a bunch of Richard Nortons, man. She already knows it's Richard Norton. There's no like discovery that needs to happen. She kills a bunch of people. And you think, oh, well, this movie's going to be like 25 minutes, I guess. Because she kills a lot of people, like right off the bat. Yes. Like, she's not asking questions or like trying to figure out who anyone is. Yeah. If you're at my brother's farm and you're just hanging around, you're dead. Right. Like everyone is dying, right. Which I appreciated. Or I'm kicking you in the nuts. That was the other great thing was at one point she like walks into, I think, is it Norton's Lair or whatever? Yeah. She walks into his hotel or whatever. And a guy comes out and goes, who are you? And she just like wallops him right in the nuts and keeps walking. Right. It was just fantastic. Yeah. So there's no one scene, but sorry. So she gets beaten up at about the end of the first act. She gets beaten up. And she is found by a guy who she actually had beef with earlier and fought in the ring earlier. A drunken guy, kind of a town simpleton, a town idiot kind of thing, who was a drunk guy at the bar that she fought for a bit. Anyway, he finds her left for dead, decides to take pity on her because she also did not, like when she could have ended him in the ring, she didn't. She let him live or whatever. So he takes her to... medicine man Don the Dragon Wilson living out in the desert who has some nifty ayahuasca and loves to bend a lady's leg over the back of her neck, which he does in this movie during the training montage, right. Where we've got to get Cynthia healthy. So right. Obviously pump her full of drugs and have her hallucinate that this donkey and Don the Dragon Wilson are doing God knows what to her. Because all it is like Donkey's face and Wilson's face like coming at you as Rothrock's like swirling around. And I'm like, is this meant to imply that like the Donkey and Don are like doing stuff to Rothrock? Right. Because that was weird. She wakes up after that. She's still a bit sore, so there has to be like a fight training montage and a stretching montage, yes. Which involves a lot of Cynthia showing everyone how bendy she still is, which I thoroughly appreciated, and letting Don the Dragon Wilson grab her thigh and her butt and her calf muscle a lot while he helped her bend and whatever. Like, I wouldn't lose any of that. No. Like, the fact that the ayahuasca trip was as long as it was actually brought me joy because I was watching the movie. I'm like, oh, medicine man, she's going to do an ayahuasca trip or something like that. Sure enough, the trip starts. I'm like, oh, wait, are they going here? Like, are they showing us like a B-movie Cynthia Rothrock version of what an ayahuasca trip would be like with a comedic donkey. Like, are we doing this right now? And I got so excited by that, that we were doing this right now. I'm like, she could have had a 20-minute Willy Wonka style fucking, she could have had weird montages of chickens getting their heads cut off and centipedes crawling over people's faces. Everyone's seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, right? Or Willy Wonka, rather. Where literally in a kids movie you see a chicken's head being cut clean off. That's the thing that happened, folks, in the 70s when we used to make good children's films. Anyway, Black Creek similarly cuts a lot of heads off. But no, when they started to do the ayahuasca trip, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad she's going there. Like, it gave me such insight that like Rothrock has this like anarchic nature that we know that she's a trailblazer. We know that she's very dedicated. We know that she's, incredibly talented and skillful and pushes and pushes. And I know that she's probably the healthiest, woman of her age on the planet in terms of how fit she is and how flexible she is and all the rest of it and what she's able to do. But to learn that she's like, she loves like gore and viscera and comedy ayahuasca trips, and sort of the movie has this great like grindhousey feel to it. There's just under the surface. I'm not saying that it's all out, it's not full blown Planet Terror, but like there's like a few just bits, and I'm not just using that as a grindhouse example. It just has a lot of that stuff in it that I was just surprised by and thinking to myself, oh, Cynthia, good for you. You have made the movie that you wanted to make, like 1,000%. Because you wouldn't, otherwise there wouldn't be beheadings and scalpings and things in this movie because it doesn't need to be. But you've put them in there because that's your sensibility. And I kind of fucking love that, man.
Yes. I totally agree. On the Millionaire's Express Blu-ray, she did an interview and she talked about she was when she was getting into martial arts, that she would go to Chinatown, which I think she grew up in Scranton, so I think it was the New York Chinatown that she went to. But she would watch, Hong Kong movies there. And so I have to think that she was watching grindhouse films as well, and watching those in the 70s, kind of just having that background in those movies. I mean, she did do a movie called Fury Fist and the Golden Fleece, which was a bad goofy homage to grindhouse movies. It just didn't work well. She's in that. Also, Don the Dragon's in it. Michael Dudikoff's in it, but they all have small parts. But it does make me think that she probably has that grindhouse sensibility. And to see it play out in this movie, I mean, the whole ayahuasca thing. There's a couple of things I don't want to give away. Some of the plot points in the movie, but there's some stuff like a mention of the donkey that comes later in the movie, which is like the most beautiful thing. You're right. Like there were probably movie, producers, line producers, whatever, that would say, you got to cut some of this stuff out. And I think if these things ended up on the cutting room floor, it wouldn't have been the movie that we got.
Right. That's the other way to look at it. And again, I think I could trim certain scenes, but there are no scenes I would lose wholesale. I generally liked it. Yeah. Now, just to let people know, there is some CGI blood in the movie, which is unfortunate. I don't like it. They haven't been able to perfect it, and it's certainly not good CGI blood. There is also a CGI explosion, which is almost unforgivable at this point, because if you can't do an explosion, don't do an explosion. Like, it's just it's a problem. However, if you can look past that, what is nice is they do marry the CGI blood with real prosthetic special effects, which I think is a good compromise. So I do like that they did some of that.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I really like CGI, the time that I think it's the best, is when it's replacing animals. Because I just feel like, leave the poor animals alone. They don't need to be doing movies. They're living their lives. Let them,
Right.
But it is interesting in this movie because normally that would apply to the donkey in this as well. But I kind of like that they had the real donkey there, that he was just hanging out. Cynthia took some pictures of her with the donkey. I mean, again, if they had gone CGI with the donkey and it didn't look as good, I still would have been okay with it. I'm like, just give me CGI animals. I think that's...
if they'd gone CGI with the donkey and it had been voiced by Eddie Murphy.
Yes, that would be better. Yes, exactly. But I get what you mean about the explosion. This movie did not need an explosion. There was no like. There's not a point where I was saying to myself like, boy, this could use a, you know. I mean, I think that's that to what PM did in the 90s with that kind of thing. I know we keep going back to PM, but I think the stuff that PM was doing with those explosions where they were setting things off and making things work in a certain way, I think it was. I don't think that they would have been doing CGI. I would hope they wouldn't, but I don't think they would have. I think they would have said, "We're not going to do the explosion if we can't."
They'd be stealing footage from another movie
with the explosion. Yes,
get into their movie. And to be honest, if she had paid for like some stock footage of a Western town exploding, I would have. That would have been a lot more preferable than the CGI explosion. Yeah. But again, the pros of this movie far outweigh their cons.
Yes,
to me. And are we being overly generous because it's a Cynthia Rothrock movie by Cynthia Rothrock for Cynthia Rothrock, and we kind of love Cynthia Rothrock? Yeah, maybe. But when I stack this up against, you know, I've said a lot of the time, like when I watch B-movie action now, unless it's Scott Adkins, like 1 in 4 of every Scott Adkins movies tends to be really great. Unless it's one of those, most straight-to-video action films these days are mostly pish. And I watch them and I go, God, can you not just pull your fucking thumb out and get a couple of people who know what they're doing in a room to beat the shit out of each other for 5 minutes and film it? Like, how fucking hard is that? I get that you can't have fucking car chases and explosions and gunfights and everything else. I understand that. But you could get a bunch of people who know, like, when I used to go to the Urban Action Showcase in New York, and cover it for the After Movie Diner, one of the things you would see all of the time, especially in New York, were these groups of people who did martial arts and who would go up on the roofs of their apartment buildings and edit together little show reels of them all doing martial arts and seemingly jumping from roof to roof and shit that you can do very cheaply. In fact, they just shot it with like either a phone or a little camcorder. Like they just did it like people used to do skate videos, but they were doing like martial arts set pieces and showing it in their booth. Well, I'm sorry, get a bunch of those guys and film them. Get a couple of people who do parkour and stick them in the movie. Like, it doesn't have to be this big thing. And yet I watch these B movies that are attempting to be A movies, and I'm like, no, just be a B movie and do that well. You don't. No one's ever going to watch this thing with like Dolph Lundgren in it or whatever. And go, oh, this is Con Air. Like, no one's doing that. So just make a good Dolph Lundgren movie. You know what I mean? Stop making bad ones. I don't know why I'm picking on Dolph, but you know what I mean? Like Alan Lucy or fucking whoever. Like, whoever's now the next wave of action, do it better. Nevsky, do it better. Like, just fucking do it better. And I think that, therefore, I come from that place. I come from a place of being like, most B-movie action, although I keep watching it and I do occasionally find a good one, I have very low expectations for it. Yeah. So going into Black Creek, I was a little bit like fingers crossed because I'm like, I love Cynthia and I didn't want to watch her fail. And I know that it was a very low budget movie, and a Western is a very difficult thing to pull off on a low budget. It really is. And I find that kind of surprising. So the fact that it was as good as it is, I would stack it up. Is it as good as Diablo? No. Is it in terms of being a low budget actioner? No, but it's considering they're all over 65. It's kind of close.
It's, and I think to your point too. I mean, I know it's you're grading on a curve or whatever, but I think if you're watching the movie as a fan of Rothrock, as a fan of the other actors in the film, Wilson, Norton, etc. I think if you're a fan of them, you're not going to go away unhappy with this movie. And I think that's all you can really ask for with a movie like this, which a passion project where it's something that she wants to put together. Again, we're at a point where it's been 30 years since they're primed for making these movies. If you go away happy with the movie, if you go away entertained by the movie, I think that's the biggest piece. And I think for people who are fans of these actors, I think you're going to go away entertained. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're not going to look at this and go like, man, this is a waste. They shouldn't have done it. I don't think anybody's going to come away with that feeling.
Right. Also, there's been a long history of martial arts in Western films, especially spaghetti Westerns, with stuff like Lee Van Cleef and Lo Lee and like The Stranger and the Gunfighter. My Name is Shanghai Joe, which was a bit of a franchise. Red Sun, with Charles Bronson in it, and Ursula Andress, and Toshiro Mifune. These kind of movies have been around a long time, especially since the 60s and 70s. Yeah. And while obviously this one's not on set on film and doesn't have, a grand spaghetti western score to it, I would actually say this is more exciting than most of those, like beat for beat, because a lot of those, like, I think people forget that they've been so used to The Matrix or John Wick, and I like those movies, I'm not shitting on them, but they're so used to, well, this is what movie fighting is, that they forget that for like 40 years, movie fighting was like two old guys like slugging each other maybe once or twice and then being like, all right, Pilgrim, you can go, whatever. And then he rides off into the distance. Like, that was what movie fighting was for the longest time. So I don't know, the fact that this throws it back to kind of how they used to do it in the 80s and 90s, it's I love it, and it's definitely a step above all the Godfrey Ho films she did.
Exactly. Well,
except maybe Unbreakable.
No, I mean, this for her, for Cynthia. I mean, when you talk about like her movies, because we were talking about Guardian Angel being like maybe like a top 5 for her or something like that. I mean, this is one of the better movies that she's done since then. I was trying to think of what's come out since. Maybe I should look her up on IMDb, but I was trying to think of what she's done since Guardian Angel that I would put this above. There's not a lot that and which I think if there's anything that I want from this movie is to say, like, this is one of her better movies, which I think at the very least, I think
Undefeatable. I said Unbreakable.
Oh, Undefeatable. Yes, that's yes.
Yes, yeah. Godfrey Ho's Undefeatable. Sorry,
right,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Well, there's that one, and there's the other one, Honor and Glory, that she did with Godfrey Ho.
And Manhattan 2000, but I think that was cobbled together from other movies.
Right. Yeah.
No, so the only one after Guardian Angel that's sort of worth a damn is probably Sworn to Justice.
Sworn to Justice. I was going to say, I was thinking of that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, Night Vision, she's sort of third fiddle to the guys in that movie. Redemption, again, a good movie, but not quite the same. Outside the Law should have been much better than it was. I always think of Outside the Law as sort of the last of the true, like, Rothrock leading roles sort of thing. And then, and The Martial Arts Kid, for what it is, as a sort of PSA, it's fine, but it's not near this. But you're right. This, in terms of movies I would put on, I would put this on probably the same amount as Guardian Angel or Sworn to Justice. I would probably put it on as often as those two movies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for her recent stuff, I mean, the fact that she did voice work, but it wasn't a lot, but she did voice work in New York Ninja. I mean, I would say, in terms of a movie that's come out recently that has her in it, that's obviously more of a Don the Dragon Wilson movie, even though he's also only doing voice work as well. I mean, that movie is just such a fun, inspired idea that they found this movie without a soundtrack, and they said, let's try to make the movie. Let's add something to it and try to make it as much as we can. I mean, this is for me, other than that one, I mean, this is one of her best things to come out, and we're talking about the last 25 years or so. That she's had this thing, but this is that. I think this is that enjoyable. I think it came out that well. The other things we always talk about this, on here, like supporting indie artists, and I think this is one of those times to do it where I think you can feel good if you're a fan of Cynthia Rothrock, you're a fan of all the names in here, fan of action like this, and wanting to see more of these kinds of movies come out, and less of the sort of the cynical, Randall scandal kind of drivel kind of stuff with, Robert De Niro sleepwalking through his scenes. If you want more of this kind of thing, you got to support it and, get out there, rent it, buy it, whatever. But I rented this one. I think, and I think you bought it, right? You got the
I did. I did the pre-order.
Yeah. I mean, this is where it's, if you've got, $4, to spare, this is a good place to put it, because you're supporting something that, that $4 that you could put into anything, right? When you put it into this movie, it helps her, right? Or she's going to get the joy. So you're going to enjoy this movie, but then she's also going to get the enjoyment from seeing another sale, for her movie.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And look, it's only $12.99 to buy it. So you know,
point two, yeah.
buy it. I mean, you can't even get a McDonald's meal for $12.99 anymore. So don't tell me that you know. And this is sort of something that my friend always says. My friend Charlie Roxburgh always says, and I always think that he's quite true. You see all this shit on Instagram, whether it's pottery people or woodworking people or sculptors or artists or painters or whatever, who say, you know, when they have their Etsy store or whatever, well, it costs so much because it's handmade, you know, and they'll sell like one mug for $250, you know, whatever. Now, look, no begrudging them. I'm not whatever. But what I don't understand is when you know, people will accept that. They'll go, oh, well, it's art. And he spent, you know, 5 days painting it and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I like the picture. Well, these guys spent like 3 weeks making this, or just shy of 2.5 weeks making this. There were hundreds of people involved that they had to pay, feed, put up for the night, whatever. As well as make an entertaining movie for you, and you're going to bulk at paying $12.99 for it. Like you buy that mug and have everyone come around your house and be like, "Oh, look, I own $150 mug. It was handmade by some bearded twazzock out in Idaho, and you know was a lovely filigree gold leaf or something embedded in the stuff." And look, good luck to the guy selling the fancy mug, and I love the fancy mugs. No, whatever, but let's have some proportion. Don't roll your eyes at $12.99 if you look at the $150 mug and go, no, but he made it by hand. Well, they made this by fucking hand, blood, sweat, tears, legs, eyes, tits, everything. So you just pony up the $12.99, or if you really can't do that, rent it for $4 and support a movie, because you know, Cynthia has put everything in this film, and the least we can do, and she's done it for the fans. Yes, she's done it for herself, but she's done it for the fans. This movie is for her fans. 110% it is for her fans, and therefore we owe her, you know, our money. And like I say, you can't even get a fucking burger and fries at McDonald's for $12.99 anymore. So
no, and the other thing is that, you know, she'll make a sequel. The thing is, and it's not just that she'll make a sequel because we put the money in, but she can sell the idea of a sequel to backers much better if we're willing to put the money in. I think that's a big key, is that we can vote with our money. And I think all the times that we complain about, you know, streaming services having, you know, too much stuff that we don't want, or removing things, pulling things, all that kind of stuff, this is the way we vote. This is the way that this is the only language that distributors and produce, you know, all whatever, you know, the industry understands, is voting with your dollars. And this is a great way to do it. This is a way that, you know, I mean, to your point, $12.99. I mean, you can't go see a new release in the theater for that much. You know,
well, $5 Tuesdays in New Milford, Connecticut.
Oh, you're gonna okay. See, and I do the morning matinees, and those are like 12, or those are like 10, I think, for me, or 11. So even like a morning matinee. So if I go at 9:30 in the morning to see a movie, like that's what I usually do on a Saturday morning, it's still only slightly cheaper than buying this movie. So that's a great point too.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And just think of the money you fucking piss away on things where you're just like, why did I spend $5 on that? Oh, I just did. Oh, well, whatever. And you don't think about it because you're just like, well, it's $5. And someone else is listening to this and being like, you privileged fuck. I think about every single $5. And I get it. You think about every single $5. I'm just saying a lot of the people who are going to be renting Black Creek are not thinking about every $5 they spend. So I'm not trying to be privileged or anything. I'm just saying, like, it's $5. Deal with it.
Well, no, but I also think too, I think if you're thinking about where your money is going, like where to put it, you know, $4 for a rental for this, it's going, because the thing is, I always try to say with my books, or, you know, with any indie that you support, when you put the money towards that, you're not only getting the thing for yourself, but you're giving something to that other person. It's one of the few things that you can do that when you make the purchase, you're giving somebody else something.
Right. Do you think Glenn Powell and Edgar Wright give $2 how many people shared the fucking Running Man trailer today?
Right.
No. I don't give any fucks. They've already made their millions. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Right. They don't really give a fuck. Because the Running Man's going to be popular anyway. Because it's Glenn Powell. It's Glenn Powell. Let's make Glenn Powell a thing. It's Ben Powell and it's Edgar Wright, and people have a weird hard-on for both those people, despite them being not the talent that they all think they are. Anyway, everyone was sharing that trailer today. Every single person was sharing that trailer today. I have shared almost only Black Creek stuff and Diablo stuff for like the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And again, that's the thing, is like, we've said it before, but like, share your friend's podcast. Just share it. Share an indie movie rather than a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Look, be happy about a Hollywood blockbuster movie. Be like, yay, I'm really glad they've remade The Running Man with Glenn Powell. Be really happy about that. I'm not begrudging you being happy about. Well, actually, I am. I hate you just a little bit for being happy that they remade The Running Man with Glenn Powell. There is a little bit of me that has lost some respect in you. But in general, be happy about The Running Man. But support Black Creek.
Yes.
That's what I would.
Yeah. And I think, when I went to the page, so when I put my review up, one of the things I do whenever I do my review is, okay, who else that's like on the pod or that I'm on there, whatever, that has sites, who else is reviewed it. And, it's only got the 9 critic reviews. And, obviously the guys at Bulletproof, they're good about making sure they cover it. So it was Chris DiPetrillo who did it this time, but you also reviewed it on your site, and I did mine. There are a few others out there. But it would be nice. I think we, I think, on the other hand,
did I post mine to,
so IMDb takes it. I don't know how they find it, but they get it. I know for me, I always post the IMDb link on mine, but I think that they just find our reviews. I don't know how they do it, but they do. I think on the one hand, I think it would, for people like Cynthia who are making movies like this, I think if you go out to the people who are reviewing your other movies and say, hey, here's the screener, do you want to review it? On the other, because I think for me, like, for example, if she had sent me a screener, I still would have made it a point to rent it as well, just to support it. But the screener, I could have maybe reviewed it before it came out or whatever. But it would be nice. Yeah. I think, I think she probably didn't send out a lot of screeners because he's only got the 9 reviews. And I think that always helps to get the critic reviews on there because you get the links to people like us who are big fans of this kind of stuff. And you can get a kind of somebody mentioned when I posted on Blue Sky that, there was the account Point of Impact Publishing for, action books. They said they appreciated that, okay, there's a fan perspective here that this is like, okay, as a fan of these movies, I'm a fan of these movies. It's good to know what a fan thinks of these movies because that kind of gives the us fans of it, you get that perspective. So, going in like, okay, this is not just some, like you said, some twazzic who's just like, oh, well, I don't, it's low budget and they've got fake blood and I'm, whatever. No, it's people who appreciate these actors and want to see them do well and are, like the fact that this came out so well.
Yeah, and it has some really decent IMDb user reviews.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs a lot more ratings, and it needs a lot more, but the reviews that they've got are really, really good. And, everyone is praising her and her work as they should.
Yeah.
Contribute to those reviews, do what you can, sharing stuff on social. Just support it. Go out of your comfort zone, rent an indie movie, and enjoy it because there's a lot to enjoy here. And any of the little things you might have niggles with it, it's not important.
No, I agree. Yeah. I think and the more we vote with our money and our views and our streams, all those things, the more that we vote with those things, the more that the industry will push more product in that direction, more content in that direction.
Yeah, indeed. What is this movie? Vendetta Vet.
Yes, that thing has been floating around for like 10 years. Like I think I want to say like she had that on her IMDb way back then, and it's like I don't know if that movie's ever coming out. It's just got this woman in like some like. I think her body's almost like AI or like
all the pictures look AI or Photoshop.
Yeah. This thing has been on her bio for years. And I don't know when it's ever coming out or anything like that. I mean, I want to say like in the 2010s, it was like early 2010s. You know, they were talking about this movie coming out. I mean, it's one of the things that's plagued her kind of 2000s career. Especially recently, like 2010s, the 2020s. There's a lot of stuff that just hasn't been released here in America.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, look at the horrible AI job on Prey of Wrath.
Yes.
That's meant to be Cynthia Rothrock, and it looks like Tia Carrera. It's not Tia Carrera. Yeah. It looks like AI Rothrock and AI Tia Carrera, and I'm like, you couldn't just take a picture of Rothrock? Like, it's so weird.
I mean, it's another reason why, again, if we can show people, like, stop giving her these, like, 5-minute cameo scenes, or these sort of, like, I mean, Darkness of Man, she's in it for one scene. She's still bankable, and not just to have her name on the tin as like a bait and switch kind of thing, but like she's still bankable to like be the lead in a movie and carry the movie. It's so hopefully they'll more people will go in for this kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad to see her doing things like The Last Kumite and Lady Scorpions, because even as a cameo, I feel like they're giving her more to do than the regular people were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this Prey of Wrath is interesting because I'm looking at some of the names here. Louis DiStefano and Chris Spinelli, they do a lot of Cine Ridge Entertainment, Cinema Epoch kind of movies, like Gregory Hatanaka directed it out of Las Vegas. And so those are like they're like these low budget genre movies, like 75 minutes long. There's some of them are a trip. They're really good. I enjoy them. So it's interesting. I don't know if this movie is kind of verging on that territory. It doesn't say it's Cine Ridge Entertainment, so I don't know. If these guys are just kind of working in a different company for a bit, but and seeing those names, those are names I recognize from some of those other movies.
Definitely. No, I mean, I want to check out as many of them as I can. I really do. But as you say, some of them are hard to find until they crop up on Tubi or Pluto or something.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, look, that was fantastic. We covered all three movies, or certainly the two movies, and then a bunch of other stuff. So that was great. Thank you so much for that, sir. A pleasure to talk to you this evening.
Yes.
Tell the listening several where they can find you, what they can purchase, how they should support you, all that good stuff, and then let us wrap it up.
Yeah, so dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. That's the place where you can find everything. So Direct to Video Connoisseur, that's the site if you search us online. We've got the site, we've got the podcast, DTVC Podcast, the YouTube channel. I'm starting to post videos up on there as well. And then my novels, my most recent one, Nadia and Aiden, you can get that on Kindle Unlimited, or in paperback. But I always appreciate it if anyone wants to buy my novels.
That's fantastic. Fantastic, Matt. Thank you so much, sir, for doing this new action rundown.
Yes.
I don't know when I'll put it up.
Right,
probably in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And thank you ever so much.
Thanks,
and we will talk again soon.
Absolutely.
And all the best to Jen, and have a good week.
Same. All the best to Kib. And have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, man. Bye now.
See you, man.